Call the meeting to order. Salute the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You're not here anymore.
I would like to read in the certification of compliance.
Thank you. The time, date, and location of this meeting was published in the Asbury Park Press and posted on the bulletin board in the office of the Township of Lakewood at least 48 hours in advance. The public has the right to attend this meeting, and minutes of this meeting will be available for public inspection. This meeting meets the criteria of the Open Public Meetings Act.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Grunberger.
Here.
Mr. Franklin.
Here.
Mr. Hibberson.
Here.
Mr. Flansbaugh.
Here.
Mr. Herzl.
Here.
Mr. Renner. Mr. Folman.
Here.
Mr. Graffos. Mr. Cotillo.
Confirmation recording status.
Yes, it's on and working this
It's
time.
working this week?
It is.
We fixed it?
I waited patiently and magically it works this time.
Okay, we swear on the professional please.
State your name correctly.
Dave Magno?
Do you swear to affirm the testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
How are you ready?
I am.
Organizational resolutions. Please
First,
say please vote.
everyone can vote on these beginning resolutions, except for Mr. Renner, Mr. Cotillo, who are not here. And I will announce Mr. Grunberger, there's two you need to step down on this one. SD 2200 for Aaron Mansour, minor subdivision.
Motion. Moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? No. Approved. Next.
SD 2207, major subdivision.
Motion. Moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? No. Approved.
SP 2230, major site plan.
Motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? No.
These next two, Mr. Grunberger was not at that portion of the meeting, so he'll step down on those. SP 2237AA, site plan exemption.
Motion.
Offer.
Second.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
SP 2235, major site plan.
Motion.
Offer. Second.
All in favor? Any nays? No.
SD 2144, minor subdivision. Mr. Grunberger, you can vote on this.
Motion.
Second. All in favor? Any nays?
SD 2182 is a withdrawal of a minor subdivision. I believe the whole board can act on this one.
Motion.
Offer.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Okay, and the following ones, Mr. Herzl, you cannot vote on because you were not here for that portion of the meeting. SD 2173, extension of a minor subdivision.
Offer.
Second.
All in favor? Any nays? No. Next.
SD 2063, extension of a minor subdivision.
Motion.
Offer.
All in favor? Next.
SD 1963, extension of a minor subdivision.
Second.
All in favor? Next.
SD 2140, extension of a minor subdivision.
Second.
All in favor?
SD 2170, extension of a minor subdivision.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next.
SD 2153, extension of a minor subdivision.
Second.
All in favor?
And the last one, SD 2131, extension of a minor subdivision.
Second.
All in favor? Any nays? No. Approved.
Now, Chairman, before we get started, I would recommend that we make announcements on any
Ask if
that are
any
being
changes to the
carried.
agenda.
Thank you.
Howard, what are the changes to it?
The first is, and these are reflected on the agenda that's available to the public up here. SP 2170 for Kate Meta. I received a request from the applicant's attorney, Mr. Ray Shea, to table this to a meeting in July, given that Mr. Gazarovski has filed some sort of motion against the ordinance change that now permits hotels in this zone. We can schedule for a specific date, we can table until further notice.
So how many days is in court right now?
The ordinance that permits this use is in court, the application itself is
So
not.
why should you give it a date until?
Mr. Shea had requested to table until sometime in July. I don't know that there's anything definitive planned for the progression of
Should
the
we wait
case.
till we hear that from the judge?
I would think that that's most beneficial, and unfortunately, Mr. Shea is not here to
Mr. Jackson,
argue
what do you
that.
think?
The litigation is pending with regard to zoning. I guess he wants to wait. He doesn't want to have the case decided and have the judge invalidate the ordinance, so they're just being cautious. I mean, my view is until the judge throws it out, it's,
We can't vote on it.
well, he wants it adjourned anyway, so you don't have to.
I know, but he wants us to give us a date.
He wants it adjourned to a specific date. I would lean more towards adjourning until further notice and waiting to reschedule when the applicant's.
Well, he probably wants to give a date so that he doesn't have to renotice and all that, so we can announce it.
I just
but
don't, I
think
know
he should-
that the board doesn't like to carry month after month, and I
How many
couldn't
times
see
has it
that
carried
being
already?
potential here. They haven't, they were approved, and then, through a court case, the approval was overturned, so it has sat until the use was added as a permitted use by the committee. So now they're back with the exact same application, just to get the board to reapprove now that it's a permitted use.
I feel more comfortable when we notice.
You know, what we'll do, let's adjourn it without a date at this point. Put it on inactive, and I'll speak to Mr. Shea, and whatever he and I can agree to, that's what we'll do. But he should have to renotice, because,
I know he had a conflict, or excuse me, Mr. Dasty was acting as the conflict attorney,
oh, I don't have this.
and I apologize, I didn't think
Okay,
of that. till
yeah,
now.
then forget everything I just said.
Mr. Dasty is not available one of our July dates, and Mr. Gazarovski is not available the other July date. And so for me to try and pick which date just seems a little
I
silly.
think they should renotice. There's a long history. I think to be fair.
Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't realize this was the one that Mr. Dasty was on. There's a lot in this category, but I can't weigh in on this one at all. But it is, it's one of my former clients is the objector.
There you go, I know there had been a question
Yeah,
about
and, you know, they
I think
objected
to
to
be
it, so I
fair,
had to step
everybody should
down.
renotice.
So I have nothing to do with it.
that. All right, so,
Can't discuss it at all.
members of the public be advised, application SB 2170 for Keton Meta has been tabled at this time for the request of the applicant's attorney. Any future meeting on this application will require new notice to the neighbors and in the press. The other application is SB 2220.
Alan, can I stop you for a minute? Can I make an announcement? Someone left their keys and their cell phone up
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
It's yours? Okay.
So,
So, if you yelled at me when it rang a minute ago, I was gonna,
I'm sorry.
It buzzes the whole time.
Okay, next.
SB 2227 by Yarrick LLC. This is the warehouse storage units on Airport Road. Revised plans were required for the next public hearing. We didn't get them in time. They're looking to be carried to the next available public hearing. We do have dates July 12th and July 25th. However, nothing is scheduled on either of those at this time.
And number 12, number 11. There's an opposing attorney around, right?
I don't know that there's actually an,
I represent the
don't
applicant.
recall.
I represent the applicant on that matter.
Gazarovski on this one?
I don't think so. I've gotten some correspondence, but I haven't gotten anything official from an attorney saying that they've actually been retained. I know we've been working with some of the neighbors, and we did revise the plans.
My notes do indicate Mr. Liston had some interest in the application at some point.
I was spoken about 2 or 3 different attorneys called me saying that they were going to be retained, and then I got nothing else from them at all. That being said, we've now submitted, I believe, the revised plans, and we're asking for the next available date so I can send out the notices.
You're sending out new notice?
Yeah, we have to. We sent the new plans. We just missed it in time to get on for this night's agenda. So we would like to.
Any day that I would give you it's not a plus you give like.
July 25th would be the next public hearing. I know the applicant wants July 12th, however, at this time, we have nothing scheduled on July 12th. We have one item on July 25th. It seems frivolous to be here 2 nights in July for 2 applications.
July 25th.
you want to make the announcement on number 11, John?
Does any change?
I'm gonna have to notice for it. I'm gonna have to notice anyway.
We noticed for this one.
Oh, no, we-
Announced and carried to this one.
It was carried to, correct, but we didn't get the plans in. I'm gonna have to send a notice on
We're
for
going to
it.
renotice
Correct,
anyway for
yes.
number 11, SB 2227 Garrett.
Okay, and what about 12? That wasn't 12. Okay, so anyone who's here on number 11 tonight, SB 2227 Eric LLC, that's going to be heard on July 25th. There will be new notices.
There's two others requesting and carry, SB 2228 Brooks Developers, as well as SB 2238 AA Shea Rosenfeld. SB 2228 requested to carry until further notice. I don't believe they know when they anticipate moving forward. So that is not being heard tonight, and there's no legal announcement need for that one. SB 2238, I believe, is the application that indicated they met with the neighbors and they were ready to go forward. However, I had already noted on the agenda they were requesting a carry, and I wasn't going to switch and put them back on now. So again, July 25th would be the meeting date for that, which puts us at 3 applications on that agenda. So.
Mr. Johnson, would you like to announce it?
What's the
In case anybody's here.
Number 13,
What's the
July
name?
25th.
No notice.
Correct.
Members of the public, number 13 on tonight's calendar, SB 2238 AA Shea Rosenfeld has been adjourned, will be heard on July 25th, 2017, 6 o'clock, this meeting hall. There will be no further notice. This is your notice.
Okay. Public hearing, number 11.
We also have 2 correspondence items. If the board is willing, we could probably get rid of those sooner rather than later. Under correspondence, SP 2225 for Joseph Notice. This was a request for a rear yard setback variance that was required. If anyone wants to open the doorway out there, I believe Mr. Lyons' office was going to provide testimony on this.
Johnson, he's there.
I believe,
He's there.
I know, I'm sorry, I thought maybe Mr. Schmuckler or someone else is more familiar with
Is
this.
Josh out there? Josh Muckler out there?
I believe the building department required them to add a rear stairway to the building for emergency access, and as a result, they need a setback variance.
Mr. Schmuck was coming in. This is Joseph Notice, the request.
Correspondence? No, sorry.
Notice.
Notice.
Oh, Brian. He actually handled the original application.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I looked it up.
Thank you. Ryan.
Yes. Yes.
Yes,
You swear affirm testimony to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do. Brian Flannery Jackson, New Jersey, licensed professional engineer and professional planner. What we're requesting is a rear setback for the emergency exit coming out. The stairs don't need, you can have stairs in the setback, they're okay. But we got to do platforms in order for it to be safe for them to come out. The platform is sort of like a deck, so the safe thing to do is ask for variance relief for a rear yard setback, but it's just for a platform for stairs coming down from the second story out the back as a rear exit from the building for safety reasons.
What's the variance that you requested?
Oh, and they showed it on the plan.
I believe at the bottom of your stack, you may actually have a copy of the plans in the letter.
There's 2 places where the decks are closer than they're allowed to be. 9.25 feet from the one closest to the door, and then where it turns and comes out to the front, it's 4.91 feet. And my opinion would be that it's stairs, which are exempt from the setbacks. It says you can have the steps in the setback. But to be safe, so that Francine approves the permit and they do it, we're asking the board for the variance.
It was a neighbor who came in last time. Is this going to,
We noticed.
like, his
We noticed.
windows and stuff like that?
Well, a notice was sent out to the neighbor, so if the neighbor felt like, no, this isn't going to impact the windows or any of the items, he still has the fence on the side, so all the things that they requested, And if they felt that this was something that wasn't per their agreement with the shul, I'm sure they would be here.
You're not changing anything on the building?
No, the building is staying as is.
It's correspondence which is usually done at the end of the meeting, so somebody could see the agenda and.
Well, if the board feels more comfortable, we can hold it to the...
Where's it coming down?
The neighbor was on the west side, and the steps are coming down on the west side.
And notices were sent.
I know, but what he's saying is.
If you want to wait and reconsider it later, we can. I know the other request is just a request about landscaping.
If the board feels more comfortable, I'm going to be here till the end anyway.
Okay, so.
So the other correspondence request is for SB 2058 for Simon Soloff. It's just a modification of the originally approved landscaping. I believe the result came up during resolution compliance.
Correct. SB 2058
This
is,
one.
You swear from testimony to the truth, the truth, the whole truth, none but the truth.
I do. Joseph Kashuba, KBA Engineering Services.
Why are we changing the landscape?
Because there's existing landscaping there, and we felt it better not to remove large existing spruces for smaller proposed spruces. We show on the plan, and we'd actually emailed in a copy of the trees that existed. It's purely at the very rear of the parking lot. That we had proposed, I believe it was 9 Leland cypresses back there. There are 6 very large existing spruces that do buffer the site from the adjacent site. We felt it better to keep those nice large trees rather than knock them down.
Well, you were recommending, but you want to keep them out, is the buffer can be more necessary?
It will be, certainly.
Not changing anything, you feel it'll be the same price?
Same amount of privacy, correct. And they're established now.
Any questions from the board members? We have a motion.
Second.
One second, we have to open this up. Okay.
You can, I don't see a harm in it, but I don't think you.
Does this create any variances?
Doesn't create any variances. It was an abundance of caution that we come to for a correspondence meeting.
Did you didn't notice? anything?
No, there was no variance.
I don't think this requires public comment.
So do we have any motion?
Second.
Motion and a second, roll call please.
Mr. Grunberger.
Yes.
Mr. Franklin.
Yes.
Mr. Hipperson.
Yes.
Mr. Flansbrough.
Yes.
Mr. Herzl.
Yes.
Mr. Coleman.
Yes.
And Mr. Drummond.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's get to number 1.
First up on the agenda for public hearing is application SD 2252 by Aaron Mansour. It's a minor subdivision to create 2 lots from 3 on Chestnut Street, so it actually is a consolidation of sorts. It still requires board approval.
Before we get into this one, a couple months ago, I made a motion that we shouldn't hear any more of these applications that are incomplete and will only be completed if we pass them. This one here is loaded with items that aren't on the drawing or are not complete, but if we pass it, they'll draw it. I don't want anything, I don't want to vote on anything like that. If you want to go through them one at a time, we'll discuss it. But I don't think we should vote on this. I think it's an incomplete project. We have a committee meeting on these projects to see if they're complete, and they're not doing their job.
It's not have
I don't know what you're looking for when you have your meetings.
Well,
Mr. Jackson, we made a motion on that a few weeks ago, a few months ago.
No,
I remember it clearly, and I've been at those meetings. I think I've been to almost all of them. I don't recall the
Please be quiet.
specifics of there being things that weren't finished. But if they're not finished, send it back, and we'll go back to the committee until all the items are complete. What are the items that need to be shown?
I noticed the engineers.
I know Mr. Voigt's not here tonight, so,
Yeah,
I can answer any questions.
Okay.
yeah, no,
they have the proposals. They don't have the engineers. It was easier to figure out the engineers that was on the, that we got the email. Sorry, applicant engineer indicates that update survey was provided with a resolution of compliance. We don't have. indicate a 20-foot rear yard setback.
Mr. Franklin, the only thing I can say on it, I mean, our letters report the facts from the drawings. In this case, I will say that any changes that they're making to the plans are not going to affect the zoning section of our letter. So it's not going to impact that part of the application that you're acting upon.
They're all minor in nature, what's in the report?
Well, I mean, I understand that the applicant engineer would not want to expend the extra effort at this time if they know they're not getting the approval.
Why not?
You know, makes sense. And that's why they answered the letter that way. You know, it's up to the board how you want to proceed. Like I said, our letters present the facts on what they respond to and what we see on the plan.
Dave, let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Number 15, on page 5.
This is Mr. Franklin, what my notes say. My partner Mark Kittredge covered this on May 9th. Is that when the plan review meeting was?
Yeah.
Yes.
And his notes say, on the Aaron Shore, will likely redesign parking for turnaround for County Road after comments from the county. Survey revisions will be prior to the public hearing. Revised plans May 25th for the June 30th hearing, 20th hearing. So those were the comments at the plan review meeting on the 9th.
And John, those issues were done.
So that's what came up during our review. And Mr. Franklin, if there's things that you want further, I mean, it's a learning
All right,
experience.
go to 15. Dimensions of proposed buildings should be provided to ensure zoning compliance. This is going to be addressed after the resolution.
Yeah, the reason for that comment is they show specific numbers on the setbacks, and I can't confirm them without a building. That's the reason for the comment.
Well, you want me to be sworn in first?
It's complete, I'm sure.
18.
I mean, for what the application is and what you're voting on, you're voting on variances for area and lot width. The technical parts are not going to affect those zoning comments.
Yeah, but you have different parking problems that are going to be worked out as we pass. You know, as you go through all the others.
And also,
Roadway.
right, Mr.
There's a lot of
Franklin,
things.
Chestnut Street is a county road, so, sorry. Chestnut Street is a county road, so they're working with the county, and at this point, we can only speculate what the county is gonna ask for them. We know what they usually ask, and know what detail has to be added to the plan. But if they're meeting with the county, that could also change from what you're seeing right now.
All right. Proposed grading contour lots, floor elevations, spot elevations, lot driveways, and dwelling quarters. So if we wider with resolution to comply. It's on the plan.
Ultimately, I think what our goal on the committee is to make sure that it's in a satisfactory level of completeness, that the board is satisfied. So if you're not satisfied, we have to get that correct.
We're voting to approve it. We're never going to see it.
Can I speak? Good evening, Miriam Weinstein on behalf of the applicant, Aaron Mansour. Just to clarify, this is a minor subdivision. Whatever was requested of us at the technical hearing that was held on May 9th was done. These issues that you're raising now were not requested at the technical hearing. At the technical hearing, engineering passed on it and said that these items could be given in at the time of resolution compliance. As far as the actual building sizes of the homes that you're referring to, that's not affecting what we're asking for tonight. The relief that we're asking for tonight is simply for lot area variances and for lot width variances. We're not asking for any setback variances. If in fact, when we propose the buildings, there would be setback variances required, the applicant would have to come back to this board.
I mean, Mr. Franklin, to your point, and it's ultimately the board's decision, and if you get a plan that's asking for variances and you're not satisfied with the proofs, it's up to you. I mean, what the committee says it needs or doesn't need, it's ultimately the board. And if you're thinking, I'm not comfortable giving these variances until I see this on the plans, you can communicate to the applicant, and they would take a risk that you might not approve the variance because it's not satisfactory to you. Your proofs aren't
It's
convincing.
not a case of the variance, it's a case that it's not designed yet.
Well, that's,
So we can't say it. They're gonna design it. And our engineer will look at it. But we didn't see it.
That's good.
There's another one here. That's what we're
what is the board, Mr. Herzl, why don't you see what the board wants to do at this point? Because they can come back, or you can decide if it's
Let me go through
satisfactory.
the process. Can I go through the process of?
You're not sworn, so.
That's fine. I'm not talking about this application. Every single minor subdivision. Is it okay if I speak?
Well, it's up to the chair whether he wants to recognize
One
you.
second, one second first.
Literally for a minute.
You have to give
I'll
your
let
name.
you speak in a second.
Go ahead.
But you have to understand what Mr. Frankel's saying.
I do.
We're not here on the planning board to design plans for
Correct.
any engineer. You gotta come with plans that are totally complete. If you're asking for variance, we should know exactly what you're asking for, and we'll vote it yes or no. If we have a lot of things that we don't know, we're voting on it. It's not fair to us, and it's not fair to
Absolutely. And without talking to this specific application, I'm not sworn in. I just want to get understanding, and something that I understood after I left the planning board and I went to the other side, I understood the process. There's a checklist. There's a minor subdivision checklist, and Dave, you can jump in if I'm wrong at any point. We follow the checklist. We don't give in. Checklist doesn't require an actual house of the planning board for a minor subdivision. You're not going to see an actual house on your minor subdivision plans. Checklist doesn't require it. The township ordinance doesn't require it.
require
Now,
a footprint.
An overall box is all you're going to get, and it doesn't even require a footprint. Now, Mr. Magno's comments in the report are correct. These are carry-through comments that eventually continue on through the plot plan stage, and when Bill and Jeff and the engineering department are reviewing plot plans in 2 years and 3 years down the line, they'll pull this letter out, and they'll see comments that we discussed back and forth with the township engineers, along with our engineers. We'll have many discussions via letters and plans, and that will address a lot of items that are in this report. A lot of those items are not meant specifically for the planning board's review. They're meant for an overall review on the project. We meet the checklist. Ally would not deem it complete without meeting the checklist. The checklist does not require architecturals. We don't give an architectural. We're doing a minor subdivision. That's all that's being done.
Mr. Herzl,
Yes.
Mr. Schmuckler is correct. As a general rule, on a subdivision, it's not part of the application to look at the house plans and look at details. But when you're asking for variances, the board can ask for anything it wants to be persuaded that the variances could be granted. And maybe your thought process is, I'm not comfortable with a 90-foot lot where 100 is required, or whatever the criteria might be, unless I know what the house is going to look like, because I want to see if the house compensates for the undersized lot by the size of the house, its location, what it's like. So you're correct, but when you have a burden of proof and you're asking for variances, you come in with, the case would be stronger by showing a lot of other details. So Mr. Schmuckler is absolutely correct. And in a general sense, on a conforming subdivision, you just get a building envelope, and you would not have to give more. But when you're seeking variances, it's up to the applicant to give everything that the board needs to hit the scale. And if you're not comfortable now with what the plan has, tell them to come back with that information. I mean, it's only.
I think you haven't heard testimony from our engineer planner, and these comments go on conforming applications, subdivisions as well. And it's for good reason, and Dave can probably agree to that. A lot of these comments are for further on down the line for the engineering department to see. In this case, they're taking 3 lots and making it to 2 lots. If the board doesn't like taking 3 lots going to 2 lots, so be it. Imagine my client will leave 3 lots.
Then you have to go to the Board of Adjustment now and get variances for undersized lots.
No, they're conforming. No, I don't. No, I don't. Not in Lakewood Township.
Stand corrected.
So I would rather my engineer has not been sworn in yet. Can you give his case?
Okay,
And I think everyone understands.
Okay.
Lots are not undersized? Howard?
They are undersized, but as long as they don't ask for any bulk variance relief, they could build on them without going to the Board of
Smaller
Adjustment.
houses.
Correct. The houses would have to be
I
smaller.
stand correct.
Okay. Okay, so,
Before you go on, though, I think, is the board satisfied? Does Mr. Franklin want to go forward? I don't think you should just disregard, he raised a concern. I think the board should determine whether you're satisfied and you want to go forward, or if you want to follow Mr. Franklin's recommendation.
We may not listen to anything right now.
Right, I mean, I think you should.
If I may, Chairman, I certainly understand and appreciate the concerns that Mr. Franklin has brought up, especially in some of the larger projects in the past that appear that they are rushed or not fully designed, especially these major subdivisions and these bigger site plans. But given that this is a minor subdivision, essentially you're creating the lots. You're not necessarily to create the lots, do you need to perfect road improvements, parking? Most of that is done at plot plan, given that this is a minor subdivision. Dave takes a very hard look at all of that and generally has good comments. However, even in past minor subdivisions, when Dave has requirements for minor subdivisions for road improvements or turnarounds, we require it to be perfected at plot plan stage. It's not done in association with the filing of the minor subdivision map.
I think in the future, any major site plan that comes, any subdivision, I would recommend the plan should be complete as possible.
Unfortunately, the letters are not issued until the week prior to the meeting. And the full review of the plans is not completed until the week prior to the meeting. So when I get a package, I'm able to check off those few things we discussed at the plan review meeting and say, yes, I got an updated survey. Yes, it looks like the plans now show a site triangle. My checklist is done. You are deemed complete for public hearing. Here's a full set of plans. Then Mr. Magno or Mr. Vogt may go through and find other issues that I'm not capable of discerning or picking out when I get those plans. So notice may have already gone out for the public hearing. It could be 3 days before the meeting, and then we have to pull everything to a halt and somehow advise the public who's been notified of this. So it's a difficult time frame to know when to pull that stuff. Right.
We push it off.
And then you have the public complaining, well, we had to come out 2 weeks ago, now you're not ready, now we have to come back. So there's no easy answer.
I think our letters are pretty specific in the sense that we comment on what we're comfortable seeing later and what we're not comfortable seeing later.
Mr. Dave, let's go over the agreement. We'll proceed on this one. So we'll start with the
Okay. Okay, anyhow, going back, this is an application starting with 3 undersized lots. We're doing a minor subdivision to create 2 larger lots, which require lot area variances. Both lots would have areas of 10,800 square feet, whereas 20,000 square feet is required in the R20 zone. Both lots require lot width variances, both are proposing 90-foot widths, whereas 100 feet is required in the zone. Those are the variances the board is looking at.
What's existing there right now?
7,200.
Mrs. Weinstein.
Thank you. Thank you. Miriam Weinstein on behalf of the applicant, Aaron Mansour. What is existing now is 3 lots. Each one of those 3 lots are 60 by 120 or 7,200 square feet per lot. The applicant is actually requesting to consolidate the 3 lots into 2 to make the lots larger and to lessen the nonconformity that exists. So while we're asking for 2 lots that are 10,800 square feet in the R20 zone, which in and of itself, if you look at that in a vacuum, would sound like a very large deviation. However, you need to consider the whole picture and realize that what's actually being done is that you're taking 3 very undersized lots and consolidating them into 2 much less undersized lots. So the nonconformity is actually being lessened. If the board were to deny this application, the applicant would be left with 3 7,200 square foot lots that they could build on without getting relief from the Board of Adjustments. As long as they don't seek any bulk variance relief, they could in fact build on those 3 lots. So what they're doing is they're coming in front of this board and saying, we have 3 lots that exist that are 7,200 square feet, give us 2 lots that are 10,800 square feet, and we'll build on those. Without any further ado, I'd like to ask to have Mr. Lyne sworn.
Do you swear affirm the testimony you'll give before this board with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Glenn Lyons, professional engineer, professional planner, Lakewood, New Jersey.
Mr. Lyne, Can you describe the application from a planning perspective, and please keep providing positive and negative criteria for each of the variances?
We're proposing to subdivide the existing 3 lots into 2 lots, resulting in 2 10,800 square foot lots.
Where's the lots on that map?
On the
It's the,
on the tax map, the white lots, all surrounded by the green lots, are the 3 lots we're talking about. So none of the surrounding lots on this block are conforming. They range in size from there's a 40 by 1 to 4,800 square foot lot. The largest is about 13,000 square feet. So again, none of the other lots are conforming, and if you look at the lots to the left side, that entire development that was done a while back, those are all 12,000 square foot lots, also in the R20 zone. The lots across Chestnut Street, they're in a business zone. They're not supposed, they're houses in a non-conforming zone. They're in the B5 zone, which does not allow houses. So at some point in the future, they may all be taken down and businesses will be across the street.
what's the existing?
Existing, it's a wooded lot.
It's a wooded lot.
It's three wooded lots. The variances we're requesting, again, we're taking 60-foot lots and making 90-foot lots out of them. We're not requesting any side yard setbacks. The houses that we show, the boxes we show are meet the lot coverage. So that's 30% lot coverage on this lot. That's what the box represents. That's something that we put on the plan just to get an idea of relatively how large the house would be. As far as again positive criteria, we're combining 3 lots into 2. I think that's positive for the zoning. Negative criteria, we're in an area that's all R zone, zoned R20, but there aren't any R20 lots. Again, within 200 feet, 300 feet. Across the street is a completely different zone that has residential uses in a business zone. From my professional standpoint, I think this is a very good application for the board, or for the town. We could put 3 houses on. The ordinance does allow us, if we can meet the setback and lot coverage requirements, we could go prepare plot plans and get 3 houses on the 3 lots. So we don't need to go to the zoning board. We could develop them, but the applicant doesn't want to develop on these little small lots, so we're combining to make 2.
What would be the dimension of lots that would be conforming on the smaller lots? What are they like?
Start.
They're currently 60 by 120, correct?
60.
Right, so you can get a 35-foot wide by 60-foot deep house.
And that would meet the.
And that would meet the lot coverage
That would
requirement.
meet the setbacks. I'm
That
not
makes
sure.
the
And the setback.
Yeah. But that would, what's the
What's
percentage allowed there, offhand?
25.
Sorry?
25%?
1,800 square feet. 35 by 50.
35%.
35 by 50. I'm sorry. It's 35 by 50 in the
One at a time.
R20,
It's one at a time.
and the R20 has
So
a 25.
35 by 50 is a pretty substantial house too, right?
Right,
I mean,
and
that's
that would meet the 25, I incorrectly said 30.
So in your view, it's better to have 2 larger lots and then you'd have 2 larger houses, because
Right,
that's
yeah.
more keeping with the zoning.
Correct.
And you think that's possible?
I think that's a better use than putting 3, narrow, small houses on these lots. Because, that's already
Is there any water, there's no water and sewer in that area?
there currently is no water and sewer in Vermont Avenue.
And if you would subdivide it by 3 rates now, you could get septic on it?
No, we're anticipating that water and sewer will be available soon.
Ms. Weinstein,
It's
you
New
have a question?
Jersey
You wanted to
American.
say something?
No. I was going to say that it's New Jersey American Water, so Mr. Flansbaum probably wouldn't know, like he's indicating. It's a New Jersey American, it's in the New Jersey American Service area.
The closest water and sewer is only 150 feet away in Vermont Avenue. So it's not like it's an extensive sewer extension to get to these two lots.
Please go outside.
What's the advantage to the developer? Why would they want to go through the expense of reconfiguring these lots and building bigger houses as opposed to simply building a three-story?
Well, because it's easier to sell, the bigger houses. That's what the public wants.
It meets the market demand better.
Meets the market demand better, thank you.
And no other setback variances.
No
We are-
setback variances.
We're not requesting any.
No.
None.
Sidewalks you having over there?
Yes.
Sidewalks,
Yes.
four
Yes,
parking spaces
absolutely.
per-
Yes,
4 parking spaces for each house.
4 parking spaces per unit.
On the revised plan, we show 4 parking spaces with the turnaround, basically in a T format layout, so that cars don't have to back out on the county road, which is, well, it's a driveway in with 2 parking spaces on either side, which comply, but the county does not want anybody backing out onto Chestnut Street, so.
If somebody's parked there, how do you back in? How does it work?
It's a T. There's 2 parking spaces each side of the drive, for this central portion of the driveway.
Any questions from any board members? Seeing no one, we'll open to the public. Anybody from the public like to be comment on this application? Please go forward, please state your name.
Shlomo Klein.
Fine, please raise your right hand to confirm the testimony of the first board with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, big fun. I'm a little bit shaken up. I have this band on me that I just got released from the hospital. I was driving down Route 9, and a car came out of one of the streets and crashed into me. At first, and I almost got killed. At first, I thought it's one of the developers. Then, my conscience said it might be one of the board members, not talking about specific boards. The police officer came afterwards to the hospital and he explained to me that it was not either of them. It was just a lady, a woman, was trying to go out of Route 9 and she was not able to make that turn. And she finally took her chances and she did it. And therefore this incident happened. The reason why I'm telling you all this, if I almost got killed, my children wouldn't have had a father. And this board keeps on improving these type of variances and creating this living hell on the south side of Lakewood. And I could just say one thing. I wish that next time one of your relatives should experience this. And you will have the feeling that my family had today about me. Okay. Now I want to speak about this application.
I've been shaken up from that.
Next on the list is something in Hartstone that's came to this board to approval and came with the same logic over here, smaller lots. We could go to the zoning board, we could get it approved, and the zoning board, this board did not buy, at least most of the board. Some board members voted yes. But most of the board members didn't buy the applicant's baloney and they told them it's a R12, you stay with R12 and create the lots that way, even though it's smaller lots. Now, this applicant came for this board over here, came for this board and telling you guys that I could build more and I want to build less. This is the same applicant that always wants to build more. And he's claiming over here he wants to build less. I could just tell you one thing is, and you know it, that he's obviously lying. I don't know what the lie is, why he can't build there, and I could give you one of the reasons. This is a county road.
County does not like access off houses off Route 9. You have to have turnarounds and a lot of these type of stuff. It could be if he would have gone to the county, but technically, legally, he should have done first before he came for approval. And they would have told him is, these 3 lots, not because it's R20, R12, R15, you can't build. You cannot do it because we won't allow you to build over there because we have a problem with our access. Don't know what they will say, but it's very, everybody is standing over here and raising their eyebrows why this applicant is coming when he always wants to build them Park Avenue apartment buildings. He comes with all these stupid applications, I'm sorry. And over here, he's concerned about the citizens and he wants to build less. Don't buy these lies. No matter who the attorney is, no matter who the professionals are. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public would like to be heard on this application, please come forward. Please state your name for the record.
Aaron Hirsch.
Mr. Hirsch, please raise your right hand. Do you swear from testimony that you swear to be true, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I affirm.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to start with, I've spoken with the county about, we always hear at the planning and zoning board that, don't worry, the county won't approve, which is not true. The county always, they turned around and I spoke to the county engineer a few weeks ago, and he told me that we do not decide land use law. And the fact is, the applicants are really supposed to, and I'll quote from the county itself, applications for subdivision or site plan approval shall be submitted to Ocean County Planning Board by the applicant who may simultaneously submit to the municipal approval authority. The point is, and the county engineer as well said, that it would save the applicants a lot of money if they just went straight to the Ocean County Planning Board, and then, like they're supposed to, and then once it's finalized there, then they could come in, because they cannot change it. Lakewood is the one that decides land use. We keep blaming it, the county won't allow. Once you guys decide, they can't do anything. They said we cannot, once you guys have done it, they cannot reverse it at that
Not
point.
restrict us from having driveways coming out on the county road.
They want to be able to give their ideas first before once you've made a decision on that, it's very hard for them, they cannot overturn your decisions.
Dave, is that correct?
Well,
They could go
They
first.
they
to Ocean
can't, they
County.
can't overturn your decision, but that doesn't mean they will approve the same plan you approve. Because it may not be possible for the applicant to design it to meet the county requirements. So that's really not a true statement.
They have requirements that we don't know.
Well, no, their requirements are very clear. They have a subdivision site plan ordinance of their own that they have to follow, and they look at traffic, they look at improvements to their roads, they look at drainage, they look at all these various things that affect the county facilities. So
The engineer said he cannot deny an application
you
if
cannot deny the zoning part. If, in other words, say the board approves this.
they say you guys control it.
Okay? If the design engineer can't satisfy the county requirements for widening the road and providing the proper driveway turnarounds, well, then they're going nowhere. They'll never get the plan signed off by the county to
That's
file the map.
That's
So-
not what the county engineer told me.
Okay.
It may be a good idea, since you're approving, you might want to talk to the county
Well,
engineer. I can give you his contact. I've spoken
I've been
to
on the
him.
other side of the fence, and I've had to go.
Because I've been there.
File planning board applications with the county for years before I've done this. So,
There's
I-
no flaw in the way we're doing it.
yeah, I know the
We measure by
requirements.
our criteria. Our engineer has a sense of what the county's criteria is, and it's unusual if there's a conflict, an applicant needs both. So I see no reason to amend our process.
Continue.
Also, the county is in the middle of reevaluating this whole area of the county for widening roads. This is a county road, and Chestnut happens to be one of the worst accidents roads, whether it's Route 9 or New Hampshire. And we're condensing, we're allowing below the actual zone. The county is not counting on lower zones than we are talking about. Keep changing zones over here. County is not accounting for that. this is my backyard. I literally live off of that street. And I can't tell you how long it's taken, whether it's Toronto, New Hampshire. And I spoke to them about New Hampshire putting up a traffic light. They told me it's years out. I mean, the Township Committee loves to say that we're working on it, it's almost there. I spoke to some committeemen, it's almost there. It's lies. They're at the beginning stages. We're talking years away. We can't keep adding more and more density if we don't have infrastructure. So let's first talk about, everyone always talks about the master plan. It says the master plan says density, but the master plan also talks about have to have infrastructure. Until we have infrastructure, please do not reduce zones. We got to keep zones. It's not fair to us. You have an idea. On my block is about 3 or 4 for sale signs. We don't need more. We don't need.
What do you think about the idea they're going from 3 lots to 2?
But they won't. They obviously are not interested in that because they would have done that already. Obviously, they won't be able to sell that because our neighborhood has larger houses.
I bet if they built 3 houses there that were 35 by 60, whatever they said they could build 35 by 50, and they would be able to sell.
Because they want to be able to have larger basements. I know how it goes. They want to have large, they're not going to be able to do it like that. There's a reason why they're combining it. We're not, no one's just, if he can sell 3 houses nicely, he would do it. But obviously he doesn't, and so basically, I mean, a lot of houses lately in our neighborhood are really growing up, and really we don't want any reducing of zones, especially on a county road that we don't have we don't have an infrastructure for it. Thank you.
Next. Please take your name for the record. Please sworn in.
Sir, do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give before this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I affirm.
Please state your name.
Shmuel Rabinowitz, 70 Drake Road.
Okay, please proceed.
I heard a couple people voice concerns and trying to figure out reasons why the board should deny this. But I know I've been listening for a lot of the meetings for the past few months or so, and every time people got up to represent the public. What I didn't hear today was the interest of the public. I cannot for the life of me understand how the public would benefit by leaving 3 lots, okay, and not going down to 2 lots. Whatever the reason is, if he has more money, whatever his reasons are, if we have 1 house less, the board should cut this down short to 10 seconds, clap their hands, say thank you very much, God bless you, and that's it. As far as the county goes, I listened to that tape. The county said a very simple thing, and Dave was right. The county says they do not do subdivisions. All they discuss is the impact of their roads. That's it. Beginning and end. Whether it comes before or after, it makes no difference to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anybody else from the public would like to be heard on this application? Seeing no one come forward, close to the public. I'll ask for a motion on this application. You want to say something?
I just want to tell the board for the record that the applicant did in fact apply for county board approval simultaneously with the application, with the filing of the application for the municipal approval. Other than that, I think everything was said. We're going from 3 lots to 2, and definitely making things better, not worse. I think this one should be a no-brainer.
We have a motion on this application. We have a motion, we have a second. Second. Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Grunberger.
Yes.
Mr. Franklin.
No.
Mr. Hipperson.
No.
Mr. Flansbaugh.
Yes.
Mr. Herzl.
Yes.
Mr. Fulman.
Yes.
Ms. Zagrafos.
No.
That's 3 to 3, a tie, and
No.
3 and 4.
That's 4 yeses.
Okay, I'm sorry, I miscounted. Well, I'm making all- Okay, so 4-3, the motion carries, the application is approved.
Next, please.
Next application is SD 2253 made by Karen Mandel. This is a major subdivision to create 5 lots from 1 Netherwood Drive.
And what I just, the engineers, Mr. Lyons, Mr. Schmuckler, Mr. Flannery, please heed what Mr. Franklin's comments were and make it easier for us. You see the type of information that he wanted. It would streamline things if we could try to make sure that the plans have that, even if the committee doesn't ask for it. You can help us do our jobs better.
Can I just give a quick comment?
Well, I don't want to derail the proceedings. We're on to the next case, but just please keep that in mind.
Stand off now. Okay, Dave, please.
Yes,
So, to the report.
yes, they have some submission waivers on this project. My first question is, I don't have proof that it's gone to the county planning board. Do you have that at this time?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
That's been done since my letter's been prepared. They're also asking
Mr.
for,
Ramos, you stepping down? Yeah. Let the record, Mr. Ramos step down.
Thank you.
they're also asking for submission waivers on a traffic study and from an environmental impact statement. So the board should take action on those requested submission waivers before we go further.
Which ones do you agree to?
Well, they should give you some testimony as to why they're asking for the traffic study submission waiver. Well, one of the reasons they're asking for the traffic study submission waiver, it's only 5 lots, one of the reasons. And I think they can give you testimony as to why the environmental impact statement. I believe the board has seen something on this property before.
Yeah.
They will get back to you.
Yes.
Mrs. Weinstein.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening once again, Marion Weinstein on behalf of the applicant Karen Mandel. As I'm sure the board recalls, and if the board members didn't recall, Mr. Klein pointed it out when he got up to the microphone on the last application. We came before the board with an application sometime last year to develop this entire Netherwood area with what the developer believed was a superior application. The neighbors came out and objected vehemently. The board denied the application based upon the fact that there were variances required for lot width. So here we are this evening. This is yet another fully conforming application that we're coming before you with as a result of the board's denial of the application for the greater picture. This one is an as-of-right application. There are no variances being sought, so the board really cannot deny this application. The board asked for all roads in the area to be paved and the infrastructure to be put in so as to open all arteries to help alleviate the Route 9 cross street through traffic. This applicant is doing just that. They're paving all the roads, they're extending the water and sewer, and they're coming in with fully compliant applications. We know the neighbors don't like this. Now they're upset. First they objected to the application to the bigger scheme. Now they're complaining that the applicant is coming in with smaller applications each time that are in fact fully compliant. But the facts are that this application is fully compliant. It's an as-of-right application that board really doesn't have any justification to vote down. But at this point, I will call upon Mr. Flannery and ask him to be sworn.
Okay, the first thing I'd like you to address, and maybe it's a legal standpoint, the submission waivers are the traffic study, the proof of submission of the Ocean County Planning Board, and the environmental impact statement.
As soon as Mr. Flannery is
Flannery
sworn.
address that?
Yes, absolutely. Mr. Flannery will address those.
Mr. Flannery, you swear affirm testimony to be before this board with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Brian Flannery Jackson, New Jersey, licensed professional engineer, professional planner. The submission waivers that we're asking for are for the traffic study, and this is a 5-lot conforming subdivision on streets that are already paper streets from a prior subdivision. A traffic study isn't going to give the board any information. There's 5 houses that are allowed to be built. We're going to build 5 houses, and they're residential streets. There was a larger application that was submitted on this, where the applicant had tried to put together some various property owners and come in and do a more consolidated type of application. In order to do that, they needed some variances, as Miriam indicated. That application received a lot of public scrutiny, and the board said we're not granting any variances. Come back with variance-free applications.
Can I stop you a moment, Mr. Magno? Do you think a traffic study would in any way assist the board in evaluating this case?
No, it's only 5 lots, and it's not going to provide a
We're satisfied with the waiver for the traffic.
Dave, what triggers that we need a traffic study? What amount of lots? When we ask for, when is it necessary?
It depends what it is and where you are also. I can tell you the 5 single-family lots will, just from my knowledge, will generate 50 trips throughout the entire day, maximum. That's not going to have a large impact on existing roads. So
it's a more busy road, and you may need a traffic study, even though it's less than.
And Mr.
Right.
And Mr. Herzl, in my view, sometimes it can help you evaluate how how long the distance has to be before a stop sign, if they're doing a subdivision with a road, how wide the roadway has to be, parking on one side, parking on the other side. But he says these roads are already there, they're already developed, there's not a lot of latitude. On a commercial site, you might want to look at it to see where you're putting the entries and exits, that kind of thing. You know, sometimes if you're going to add another road to a development, another ingress or egress point, the traffic studies can help you assess all that. But he says this is rather straightforward, the roads are there, and the traffic study will help you with those issues.
Roads are all conforming.
Yes.
So Dave, you're okay with it? That was right.
Yes, I'm okay with that part.
And the application was submitted to the county planning board. County planning board is going to have nothing to say about this because it's not on a county road. And the environmental impact statement is normally something that there's environmental features, wetland, stream, something like that. There's none of that impacting this property. This was part of an application that was submitted previously where the board determined on the bigger application that an EIS wasn't needed for that very same reason, is that there is existing streets. The zoning says you should have this many units. At that point, the applicant wasn't asking for more units. They were just looking for some bulk waivers in order to accommodate that. So certainly on the larger application, the waiver was granted for both traffic and the EIS, and it certainly makes sense on this as well.
Mr. Flannery, with an EIS, doesn't that look into things like whether there's protected species, birds, tree frogs, and that kind of thing?
Yes.
And this is all a wooded area?
This is a wooded area. I've been out there many times. I've been involved in a lot of applications in this area. There's no tree frogs, there's no barred owls.
But isn't that what an EIS tells you?
Well, an EIS would tell you that. It's typically for a bigger area where the state of New Jersey has what they call landscape maps, where they say where species have been identified, where species have been cited in the past. And they have a map that shows where those kind of features occur.
So you're satisfied, based on your knowledge of the area or your many years of practice, that this is not an environmentally sensitive area and that an EIS would be unnecessary?
That is correct. That's my
What
testimony.
do you think about that?
I've also been on site and I would agree with that.
Do we have a motion to go along with this? Do we have a motion, we have a second? I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays? No. Okay. So the submission waivers are. Okay, everybody in the audience, please leave. Whoever wants to speak, please go outside.
Did we cover the county waiver?
Yes.
Okay, so all of the waivers have been addressed?
Yes, they've since gotten that since the time the letter was written.
Okay, so we can move on with the case. The board satisfied that the submission waivers are granted?
Go through the zoning.
Yes, this project is in the R12 zone. It would consist of the entire block. However, there are 3 out parcels which are not owned by the applicant. And if you look at the map, you can see those are the ones that are not outlined. There's no variances requested. If you look at our comment number 2 in the zoning, we suggested a better configuration of the lots since they're very irregular. If you follow our configuration, you actually leave the opportunity to get a 6th conforming lot in the future. If those two vacant parcels on the northeast part of the project are acquired and re-subdivided, you get again extra conforming lot and block. So I would recommend they follow our recommendation as far as the alignment of the properties.
And we did review that with your board engineer. We looked at his recommendation. The applicant feels that the configuration we submitted comes up with 5 conforming lots, no relief needed. We feel this layout is the best for future development for the building areas for the sites. And the applicant, because he's seeking no relief, respectfully disagrees with the engineer, which we don't do it in many cases. But in this particular case, it's a difference of professional opinion, and we're not asking for any relief. If I go through Dave's report, that was the one one item.
Positive and negative.
No variances. No variances,
No
no
variance.
positive and negative.
Right, that was a standard comment. We don't have to give positive and negative criteria because we did what the board told us and what the ordinance said, a completely conforming application. The RBV report indicates that partial design waivers are required from constructing curb and sidewalk around the entire block. My opinion is it's different. We don't need a design waiver, but the applicant intends to build the curb all the way around the block, even in front of the parcels that we don't own. We don't want to build sidewalk in front of those parcels because when the owners of those parcels go to develop, they'll build their own sidewalk. If we build sidewalk now, it would get disturbed during construction.
We don't own those parcels.
We don't own those parcels. There's 3 parcels. I have 2 exhibits marked. A1 is the map that was submitted. I showed the outbound of the property in orange, and the pink lines are the lines that we're proposing to subdivide to come up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 conforming 12,000 square foot lots that conform with all of the bulk requirements. A2 is just a tax map that shows what's surrounding, which is really overkill for a 5-lot conforming application.
Are there any common owners with those other lots?
No, there are not. The other comment in the RBV report is comment number 12 that says the Shade Tree Commission recommended some plantings. The applicant will agree to provide whatever plantings are required by ordinance, and we would certainly defer to your board engineer. We've shown the street trees and everything else required. Whatever is required by ordinance, we're not asking for any relief with respect to that.
What's with trash?
The trash, it'll be picked up by Public Works, and we have to do whatever Public Works tells us. The stormwater management, we're going to pay the fee that's required because the drainage will be in the road and will be maintained by the Public Works.
And you're proposing custom homes, which would
Yes.
be the reason for the waiver from 1821,
Right, and 1821 in the past, the board has looked at, that's something that when you go to build, you need to provide. So certainly, if the applicant or somebody was to change and wanted to build tract houses here, well then they would have to comply with that before they would get building permits. But these are 5 beautiful lots in a very nice neighborhood. I'm expecting to see 5 different custom houses.
And how many parking spaces would you have?
Each one will have at least 4, and if they're bigger houses, they would have more than 4, in accordance with the ordinance. Again, this applicant is going to do everything required by the ordinance.
And Netherwood opens up to where?
Netherwood, you can see on sheet 91 of the tax map, Netherwood goes between Finchley and Cross Street. Right now, it ends at Bella Court. There was an application on the other side of the street. There were a couple applications to the south. When this area is developed, Netherwood will go all the way to Cross Street.
What can you do to get Times Square aligned? In front of lot 302, the curb is encroaching into the road. You only have a 27.96 pavement, the roads are all 32 foot. If you look down the left-hand corner, down at the bottom here, go down, back here.
Well, that's a curve that was built.
No, I know, but can we get that aligned before we pave that street in there? No, not that piece there. No, up. Here, you can do it with your finger. Here. See right here. Just up. Shoot from that. So we get to go to street.
You're looking at the existing map. The proposed map does show 32 foot of pavement all the way down.
Okay, down here it doesn't show with that.
I think that was an existing condition, right, and we will provide 32 foot of pavement.
Good.
So Brian, the road will be,
All the roads are gonna be 32 foot wide, paved with curb, and sidewalk in front of our property.
Any other questions from any board members? Seeing no one, we'll open to the public. Anybody from the public like to be heard in this application, please come forward.
Do you swear affirm testimony will give you great glory and the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I affirm.
State your name.
Shlomo Klein. This application is not asking for any variances. This applicant came for the board before, and it was a night that I think it was 5-4 that the board voted to deny the application. Ali Rennet, that since last few months is on the run. He doesn't come anymore. I guess he cannot sleep at night. He is thinking about the people that went through what I went through today, and he doesn't want to have it on his conscience. So that board, that day, denied this application, and they had to come back with a full conforming application. And you didn't give them the special treatment like the previous application, or like the last application that is coming, Hearthstone trying to rezone the whole development over there.
You have a comment about this application? I'm just curious.
I don't think you asked the same question when Mr. Schmuckler was not voted.
We went through a lot today.
Yeah, but when Mr. Schmuckler came over here and he spoke about different applications, he was speaking about that application, he was not sworn in, he didn't ask that question. Please. You drive down Route 9 to your store J2 also. And I don't want you should have blood on your hands. So pardon me if I have my frustration today and I voice my frustrating opinion that a lot of people that drive down that Route 9 every day go through.
Do you agree it's totally conforming application?
Yes, I looked at it and it's totally conforming. The only question that I have is, there's no architecturals on this plan. Why is there no architecturals? The last time I checked major subdivision, the new ordinance requires architecturals.
As per Mr. Flannery's testimony, I believe that he had indicated they anticipated custom homes to be built for individual buyers, so they do not have architectural.
But again, if they pass an ordinance, and they just passed it, that they wanted on these type of applications, we should have architectural plans. The township committee made this ordinance for a reason. Why is that we outright going to just ignore their ordinances? So what's the point of township committee making any rules?
I'm checking that right now. I don't know if this was submitted before that requirement. Mr. Flannery, was that a requirement when this was submitted for architecture?
I don't know that an ordinance was passed by the township committee. When was that passed? Just because Mr. Klein says it
Yes,
doesn't
I
mean it's
sent
true.
out an email blast to
So if
all of
Mr.
the
Klein would show me.
Mr. Flannery sent out an email blast to all of the local engineers with the updated checklist, so your office has it, but
And when was that done?
I don't recall it.
When did you file this application? Let me take a look. I have that application.
Ally,
I know, but traffic study was not on our checklist until after the checklist was updated, so if your letter references traffic study, then this was
The
submitted.
application I have shows it was filed on March 30th, 2007.
when was that ordinance passed?
According to what I was just shown, it's like March 1st.
The
We may have requested a waiver.
The traffic study requirement did not exist until the new ordinance requirements were changed. So if the review letter indicates a waiver is required for the traffic study, then a waiver is also required for the architectural, which I
Can you check your notes? You may have requested that waiver at the technical hearing.
I do not bring the individual application files with me, so I don't have those notes together.
Let me see if there's an review.
I did give testimony indicating why we did not give architectural plans.
And
We
Mr.
specifically addressed-
Lyons' office has been very good about using the updated checklist, so I imagine that I have the updated checklist in my file, which indicates a waiver is requested for the architectural plans.
In fairness, the fact that they were presented right from the beginning in their narrative that they were gonna do custom homes, we never considered in our letter to even bring architectural plans up.
So my question to you is, any person who wants to build, just subdivide and build custom homes, how can they require architectural, if the plans are going to change? We have to have some kind of guidance.
Yeah, I want to look into the purpose behind that, because you could have a requirement for architectural plans.
Historically, the architectural plans were not required. The committee recently updated the checklist requirements to require architectural plans for major subdivisions at the direction of this board, because you indicated you wanted to see architectural plans. So here's your first opportunity to determine whether or not a waiver should be granted on that requirement.
The only question is, if we do require that the guy wants to change the plan, let's come back to the board, never.
Well, the
As long as
plans
he
aren't going to
builds
change.
within the box, as long as he does not require additional variances, it doesn't matter what the layout of the individual
So the
home
architectural plan has to show that he's within the box.
if you want to
Right.
see that, but.
If we submitted plans, the architectural plans, we go and we get Fromowitz, and we buy 5 sets of architectural plans, we show you what they are, they're gonna build something different. So that would be just a exercise in futility. We'd like to formally request a waiver from this, for this specific project, because it's 12,000 square foot conforming lots, and the developer has indicated that they're gonna be custom homes, so we don't know today what's being built on there.
If they were asking for variances, you would have a lot more authority to insist that the plans that were shown be built. So they can't, you can make that a condition of approval if variances are granted. When variances are not in play, it's hard to tell them how to make their house.
We should research the intent of the ordinance that requires, I understand, but when you have five lots that are gonna be sold individually, the applicant can simply show us any architectural, and that's gonna change anyways, it doesn't matter.
And where it comes into play,
Maybe stop to it.
where it comes into play is if you're asking for undersized lots and you say the house takes into account the fact that the lot is narrow or deep or whatever,
I don't see the whole point of all that.
then grant a waiver.
There's another item here, 10 in the introduced letter. The drainage plan provided is incomplete. Design must be finalized prior to public hearing. We know the sewer extension design to impact the drainage. Drainage plan needs to be completed and coordinated with other improvements in the general practice. That's not
What's going on, as they mentioned before, this project abuts a lot of other subdivisions. They're in the process of working with New Jersey American Water Company on the water and sewer lines, as far as the connections. There's a lot they don't know as far as how they're gonna route those, and that's gonna affect how they do their final grading and final drainage. So they really can't finish either at this point.
So why should we listen to the application if there's going to be changes in the grading?
Well, you're allowed to listen to the application because they're asking for no variances. The point we're making is that, understand that they're gonna have to finalize all the road designs as far as profiles and drainage, and once they figure out what's gonna happen with the water and sewer, because the water and sewer is gonna affect that. How deep those sewer lines are is gonna affect the design. And
number 11.
And there was another thing I want, since you brought this up, Mr. Franklin, there's another thing that I wasn't clear that they were asking about Times Square, that I needed clarification on. Times Square right now is partially built and it's 28 foot wide. The applicants said they were going to change it to 32 foot wide. I don't understand why they're doing that, and if they're doing that, does that mean they're widening both sides? Because I don't want them widening just one side.
What happens, it's 32 foot wide on the proposed one. Up on the other end, there's a piece of curb that's already in. The curb in front of their property is straight. So when you get to the other end, it's only 27.9. So that piece of curb has to be moved back. So you've got 30 foot all the way across. They said that they would move that curb back.
My point is that, are they giving us a 16-foot half width on their side so that they can
Yes.
ultimately get to 32? They're not touching the other side that's done, correct?
Now they're touching the other side. They pick that piece of curb out.
That's what I want to clarify. So
The
you're
applicant's
correcting
gonna-
both sides of the
The
road?
applicant's gonna give you a 32-foot wide, proper roadway, in the right of way, yes.
Okay, that's what I want to clarify. Thank you.
And also, I'd like to, John brought up comment 10, where he says the drainage plan is incomplete. The way RVV does the reports is they have the comment, and then the bold is the new stuff. So the drainage plan provided is incomplete was a while ago. New line provided additional drainage information, but then Dave's comment under there is with respect to the fact that this is now a more complicated situation because there's a couple development jobs all in the same vicinity that are being developed. So they all have to be coordinated so that all the pieces fit.
Because it's in number 11, and that's the design shall be clarified prior to public hearing.
And that was an old comment. The bold part is the newer, and it says testimony on proposed utility design shall be provided at public hearing. So the first review that comes out, which was probably back in April, had those comments that it has to be done before public hearing. So plans were revised and submitted to their office addressing that, and they just further indicated on that testimony on proposed utility design to be provided at public hearing. And the testimony is that all of these projects are being done together. The engineer met with RBV to make sure that all of the projects in that area are coordinated and all work. But this is 5 conforming lots. We're providing the 32-foot wide roads around the entire block and doing proper road designs. And it will be public sewer and water and a drainage system that the applicant will pay their per unit fee to Public Works to maintain.
Mr. Jenkins, do you feel comfortable to go ahead without architectural?
Well, the ordinance that I took a look at, it's not signed, it's not the official version, it was March. I don't know that it was adopted or not adopted, and for the reasons that we stated, I don't know on a conforming subdivision, creating lots, if they conform and like any other lot. And I don't know if it really helps the board in its evaluation. In my view, if it's an undersized lot, if it's narrow or deep or something like that,
Is
then
there
the
any
architect.
variances then we can ask you?
Yeah,
No
that-
variances, then why do we need it?
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. So I think you can give a waiver on a conforming subdivision.
We have to vote.
I'm not even sure that it's required at this point, because I don't have the ordinance, I can't find it online, nobody seems to know about it. Ally thinks it was added and put on the checklist. So, the reason is obviously the governing body wants you to have more information, but like I said, in a conforming subdivision, I don't see the downside to granting a waiver for it, if the board thinks it would not help you evaluate the case anymore.
I forgot, I have the ordinance on here. The checklist ordinance was adopted, second reading, March 2nd, 2017.
That's a checklist ordinance, so that just says what has to be on the checklist, doesn't really go into why.
That's what the details were about the architectural plans that you just looked at.
Right, okay. So it's on the checklist, just like tree safe plan.
Architectural plans, we added that they are now required not just for site plans, but also for major subdivisions.
And if that was on March 2nd, or early part of March, this was filed on March 30th, so that would apply to this.
Another problem too, your site drainage plan was never completed.
That's a different issue.
That's another issue, right? But that ties in with your sewer and water and redrain. So it's all tied in together.
Well, the sewer and water and the drainage, if this was by itself, those comments wouldn't be. The reason those comments are there is because there's other applications by different applicants that don't match exactly. So this applicant is now working with those other applicants so that they all match. But he really shouldn't be penalized because other applicants submitted things that don't match what we're doing.
Yeah, but how are you getting rid of the water that's on this property?
It's being recharged in a drainage system
Where?
on site.
There's nothing on the plan.
Sure. Drainage plan? Grading and drainage plan, that's right.
What?
The grading and.
Can I get up a second?
There was a grading and drainage plan submitted that shows it.
Is that on the plan? Let's take a look.
It's being recharged in the roadways.
Can I get up a second, please? Can I get some?
Like any other job.
It's sheet 7 of the set.
Record will reflect.
Sheet 7 of 16.
Record should reflect Mr. Schmuckler just took from my file the sheet 7 of 7.
7 of 16.
I don't know.
John only gets the initial submission.
Yeah, these aren't.
Dave, are you okay with the drainage plan?
I mean, all this stuff has to be coordinated with the other adjoining projects during resolution compliance. And that's a fact. And they really can't do that until they settle on their design with New Jersey American Water Company. So, I mean, you can carry this, but you'll be approved the same project later, I can tell you that. It's not really, the layout's not gonna change.
Yeah, there's field changes all the time on the applications. This shows what's being built. It's showing the amount of pipes, the amount of catch basins. It's showing that we're having sewer and water. There's a lot of times where a plan gets submitted, you have all the details, you go to build it, there's field changes. One pipe comes up a little, it goes down a little. That's all the detail that's going on here. So it's my testimony that the plans that are submitted show details that if nobody else was developing, there wouldn't be those comments in the report. Since other people are developing, the applicant is agreeing to it, and there may be minor tweaks, nothing that impacts anything significant on this 5-lot conforming application.
The plan would not change.
That is
Stay the
correct.
way it is.
In other words, let me just, the layout of the lots are not going to change. It's
Correct.
not common with utilities when you deal with electric, gas, water, sewer, drainage,
Right.
Telephone, cable.
Right.
There are plenty of underground utilities that people you typically don't think about because they're underground.
Right.
That it's a whole coordination design process between all the utility companies. So
Right.
the design of the lots are not going to change. So if one of the inlets, gets moved over 5 feet because it's going to come to conflict with the water line or sewer line or whatever it is, it's not going to make a difference in the design. And sometimes these things they can take 6 months, 12 months to work out with all the utility companies. So I personally have no problem.
And everything could be worked out with
Yes.
you today.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll second that.
And again, this is just a subdivision, an application is simply for subdivision. We're just subdividing and creating the lot lines. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that.
Brian, continue.
But that's our testimony. It's a conforming 5-lot.
The plan, the contours,
Could I finish up my?
the contours show 120 on one end of the site and 111 on the other. That change in grade of 10 feet. Does that make it so that you think this would be particularly challenging or difficult to do
No,
grading and drainage?
absolutely not.
It's pretty routine?
Yes. All of the design features on that plan are very routine.
Give us the plan.
Okay, I just want to finish up.
Please raise your right hand.
I was interrupted after 2 minutes. I just want to finish up about architecturals. I know you went over the drainage. The township passed an ordinance that this type of applications over here needs architecturals. Now, just a loophole was brought up on that and said, oh, we will call it custom homes. Every home in Lakewood you could call custom homes. So what makes a lot, when you subdivide a lot, you're going to make a custom home or not? So I think that's a false statement to say that this is custom homes and that's the reason. But I just want to bring up what the attorney said. He wants to claim because you don't ask for any waivers or any variances, therefore is this ordinance, the way it was intended, is illegal. Because you have to ask for a variance to consider that ordinance. If that's the case, the ordinance is not saying only when waivers is needed. It's even when it's no waivers needed, you still have to comply with that ordinance. So respectfully to the attorney that he heard the first time about this ordinance, and it's upsetting that this is how Lakewood goes, that members of the public have to bring it up. You're right. One of the other issues that with the sidewalks over here does not have a the other side. There's no curbs and sidewalks. And again, you have the same situation as before. And I just want to mention that again, I think about the architectural, I was interrupted because I was speaking nicely. When the township passed this ordinance, the intent of the ordinance, why it was passed, because there came in a lot of complaints that the planning board approved subdivisions, and then the applicant went and built, didn't see architecturals, and they made attics, there was stairs access to the attic, and this came more from the zoning board that they were on top of it. Plus entrances to the basements, how many? So the intent of this ordinance was to stop this shulagasan that was going on. And this, I don't know, this is not the applicant, but it seems like Mr. Mansour is keeping popping up over here in this application, so it seems like he has an interest over here. And the complaint about the attic apartments was on his development in the past. So I'm just mentioning this, the intent of the ordinance is still there. And I don't know why we should start giving waivers. If you give waivers over here, you will give waivers all over. So what's the point of them passing ordinance if you could always do waivers? The same thing with the sidewalks. He's asking a waiver for the sidewalks on the other side. There's nothing going to be developed now, maybe in the future. But if the ordinance only wanted somebody to build sidewalks and curbs only on his side that he's subdividing, the ordinance would have said so. It doesn't say so. It says both sides. So there's no reason why this board should continue giving waivers on this ordinance that was passed if there's no reason passing ordinance because you're giving waivers. I'm just mentioning this is the same issue. Thank you very much. And I apologize if my comments was inappropriate.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Jones. Regarding the architecturals, you feel we don't need it for this application?
If there were criteria that would guide the board's decision, and it was binding, yes, and I think the only authority that you would have to dictate what the house can look like would be if there were variances granted. But without variances, they could build any house that will satisfy the building department when they submit for it. So, you know, Mr. Klein hurt my feelings when he said that, you know, I'm giving you illegal advice or that. I'm not saying it's illegal, it's just like a traffic study is on the checklist. In some cases, a traffic study just is not warranted. So I think what the governing body did is it gave the board and put applicants on notice that in appropriate cases, you're going to ask for them. And I think the appropriate cases are when the lots require variances. Here, there were no variances required.
So I'll ask in the future, anything that's required of variance, it should be on the architecturals.
It already is on the checklist as requiring architecturals no matter what. They just requested a waiver for this application.
Now, regarding sidewalks on the second side of the street.
The ordinance does not say we have to put sidewalks on the other side of the street. My testimony was that we're doing what's required by the ordinance, which is, and we're exceeding what's required because we're doing a 32-foot wide road. We could have come in here and said, per RSIS, we only have to do 28-foot wide, and we could have played RSIS games. The applicant came in and said he's going to do a 32-foot wide road. He's gonna put curbing all around his side, and he's gonna put sidewalk in front of his property. That is what is required by the ordinance, and the applicant is agreeing to do it.
Dave, do you agree to that?
If you look at our letter, we made a recommendation in the design waiver section. If you notice, there's 3 lots that are not included in the project. 2 of them are corner lots. Because they have no control over gaining right-of-way on those corner lots, we said it wasn't practical to put sidewalk on those 2 corner lots. We recommended that they did put sidewalk across the skinny out parcel. I think it's lot 4. I'm sorry, lot 3, I guess it is.
Existing lot 3, although it's my opinion he doesn't need to do it, the applicant will put sidewalk in front of existing lot 3.
And that was our recommendations.
Thank you.
They are curbing the entire plot.
Thank you. We will close it to the public. I have a motion. I'm sorry. Okay, we'll open that. Okay, state, raise your hand, state your name.
Yitzchak Goldstein.
Please spell your name.
Y-I-T-Z-C-H-A-K, last name G-O-L-D-S-N-I-T-H.
G-O-L-D-S-N-I-T-H. How do you pronounce your last name?
Goldsmith.
Walter. Do you affirm the testimony you will give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please proceed.
Contrary to Mrs. Weinstein, the original application was declined by the board, not necessarily because of the neighbors, because he was trying to not pave things. From day one, I told Mr. Mansour, you build a conforming application, it's your land, you can do what you want. And he's almost there, he's this close. Problem is, based on the previous application of Mr. Krupnick, is, see these 2 lots that he carved out, and this 18,000, what I know, you all know what's gonna happen, we're not idiots here. He's gonna come back and say, well, I can build 3 lots, these 2 are really not what the people want, they're not the right what we want. Let's carve it out to 3 9,300 square foot lots. It's better for the people, because they're more what people want. And he's gonna come back for a non-conforming application in 3 months. If I'm wrong, then we should do a deed restriction. This is the non-conforming application, this is the way it has to stay with the carve-outs, or at the minimum, it should be any future applications have to stay conforming, which would be 2 14,000 square foot lots, which is 18, 4, and 6. And according to the logic of the last application, 2 is better than 3, and if you take him at his word, they're private lots, people pay a premium for those 2 14,000 square foot lots. So that's the minimum I ask is let's keep it conforming in any future things. You know, res judicata is we don't have to keep coming back every single time. But I know it's never a case in this Weinstein believes res judicata applies, but in the spirit of the law, if this is the way he wants conforming, we'll let it be conforming forever. Which really brings me to my second point is in the engineer's letters, it does mention that even though it's different owners technically, we all know that it's really Cindy owns all 3, and there had to be 3, you believe you mentioned in your note that you have to show that they tried to sell it and nobody wanted to buy it. They've given proof of that? It was in the letter.
Don't have to do that.
It was
It's a fully conforming application, it doesn't
Conforming
apply.
application, there's no requirement to ask neighbors to buy it.
There's no requirement here.
Okay, well, just to me, it's funny in that way, that's the law. I apologize, I just thought I saw it somewhere that he does have to show in the notes, the engineer, that they had to do that. But even if not, you know, as I mentioned, in 3 months from now, they're gonna combine all these lots, even though it's separate owners all into the thing. I could show you, a year ago, they were willing to sell it and they conformed it. That's SD 2145. 4 months ago, in a totally new application, they combined them, and again, they were willing to sell it. Now, all of a sudden, now it's a separate carved out application, and 3 months they're gonna come back and try and put them all together again. I could submit evidence that these are the 3 previous applications, the future applications. Once again, God bless, he wants to keep a conforming application. Let's keep it that way so we don't have to keep coming back for non-conforming, and it's an R12, we're gonna have fights.
We can't vote on the future. The future will come.
You're right, so let's have it, let's say, either you could put in a deed restriction or a future thing that all future things have to, you can't, you're right, you can't come on these 2, but this lot, any future application on this lot will have to be a conforming application.
But the applicant would agree that any future applications on that lot will be conforming, or he'll ask the board for variances and justify.
So that's what res judicata is, that we don't have to keep coming back over and over and over again. If this is what he wants, let him come back with his application like a big boy and deal with it. And if not, then let's be conforming and let's move on with life.
Mr. Jackson, if this is a conforming application, we vote on this, we're not voting on anything else.
If somebody can show me a case or something that says you can deny a conforming application, I'd love to see it. Because we've been in court on a couple of those and we've lost.
No, because this was one big application, was subdivided
But
that.
the thing is, the standard is arbitrary and capricious. When it's conforming, why are you denying the application, or the theory? Why would one deny the application? That would mean you're making up criteria. So if they meet all the criteria, they're entitled. It's what they call a by right application. Now, if there was some kind of site circulation or safety or topography or something you could point to and say, we're not approving it because, and that because had a rational basis behind it, then yes, you could deny it. But absent that, it means that the board would be making up criteria, and that is what we're not supposed to do.
In the future, if they do come back.
They come back and weigh in on your merits, you know, like they want us to make them.
Could I respectfully ask from the board members to please speak into the mics because we cannot hear in the back of the room? Thank you.
Next. Please state your name.
Moshe Zainis.
Do you swear affirm testimony before this board with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I affirm. Moshe Zainis, Z-E-I-N-E-S, 112 Elmhurst Boulevard, Lakewood. I'm about 789 homes over. First of all, I want to commend the staff over here, the crew over here, for actually coming clean and saying the facts as they are. They acknowledge that they were here a year ago, and they cleaned up their act, and they got this to be. They worked very hard. They got this to be a fully conforming application. The lots that are being applied for right now tonight is what we're talking about here. In the future, we're not talking about it's these and not those. These they worked very hard to get them fully conforming. Like I said, I live right there. I heard a lot of talk about this on the block. I looked at this very much. I believe that of the options out there, this is one of the better ones for us. The larger houses over there actually do fit in with that part of Times Square. And I look forward to having good neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else from the public like to be heard on this application, please come forward. Please state your name. Do it fast, then.
Aaron Hirsch.
Mr. Hirsch, please raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony before this board with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I affirm.
Please proceed.
Okay, I believe ordinances were passed because of shenanigans in the past, because people would play around with things. This is the reason why. I could see every application coming up here in the future, custom home. I'm telling you.
You're an intelligent man. What would the architectural requirement do to help the board make its decision?
So if you don't agree with an ordinance, speak to the governing body and recommend
It's not
an
a
adoption.
zoning regulation. It's a checklist submission regulation.
And if you don't
Which
comply
are
with the checklist, can your case be heard in front
Planning
of?
boards everywhere routinely grant waivers on submission requirements.
So was a waiver submitted?
They requested the waiver here. You can ask.
They submitted it tonight then?
It came up tonight and they asked for it, and the board sized it up and determined it would not be helpful on this case. So I ask you in reason, what would the architectural plans do for the board in deciding whether this lot configuration, which we have no way to say no to?
The problem is, the reason why this was made is because of the games that have been played in the past. And I'm trying, let's figure this out, because this is a problem, it's obviously an issue.
The way I work through it, that is helpful when somebody needs variances, and you say, we're going to make certain the house has a certain configuration to compensate for the deficiencies in the lot. In other words, if there's if it's a narrow lot, we're going to make sure we honor the side backs, and this configuration will do it. We're not going to have an attic, because the lot's too small, so we don't want overdevelopment. But here, the lot's fully conformed, so I don't see in logic what requiring architectural will accomplish. And I wish you could tell us that.
I have a question. When submitting to the county, do they require architectural, or do they do not? Okay, I just want to get, and with regards to...
I mean, I think we have to understand that what's being asked for and what we can do and what we can't do. So, we're not cavalierly disregarding the new checklist requirement.
So the waiver was granted then?
Yes,
Okay. All right, thank you.
thank you.
Anybody else?
And thanks for bringing that to my attention and providing me with the copy.
You see no one, you want to speak, Mr. Schmuckler?
Joshua Schmuckler, 61 Canary Drive.
Aren't you
I,
ahead of the game at this point?
all right.
I want to talk about
We'll close to the block. We have a motion on this application.
Second.
So we have a motion on the second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Franklin.
Yes.
Mr. Hipperson.
Yes.
Mr. Flansbrough.
Yes.
Mr. Herzl.
Yes.
Mr. Fallon. Mr. Graffo. Yes. Thank you.
Motion approved. Thank you. Okay, number 3.
Number 3 is application ST 2109 made by 292 Sampson Ave LLC. It's a minor subdivision to create 2 lots from 1 on Sampson Avenue.
Dave, would you like to go to the report, please?
Yes, this is located in the R75 zone, single-family housing, and variance is required for minimum lot area. New lot 24.02, proposal lot area is 7,000 square feet, whereas the minimum required by the zone is 7,500. New lot 24.01 proposes a setback of 7 feet opposite the developed frontage of Sampson Avenue, whereas a rear yard setback of 15 feet is required. So what happened here? And a design waiver is required from the improvement of Sampson Avenue. Sampson Avenue is unapproved right-of-way heading into freshwater wetlands, and since Sampson Avenue can't be developed because of that presence of wetlands, that's the reason for the request and why the access is proposed the way it is.
Correct.
If you could present on the board, describing with the board, it would make much more sense to be reading from
We will
from
address
the
it. Good-
letter,
yeah.
which I'm sure they can't follow.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Adam Pfefferton on behalf of the applicant. As Mr. Magno indicated, that this property does have some existing buffering for some environmental sensitive areas. Before I swear in my engineer, and we'll address all the letter and any of the other questions, what the board understands, this is a unique piece of property, but for the existing environmental conditions, this would be a fully conforming application for 2 single-family lots on 2 7,500 square foot properties. We have 15,000 square feet, but based upon the condition, again, Mr. Kashuba will give testimony in a minute about the reason why we can't give exactly a 7,500 square foot lot. We've created 2 single-family lots, one being 8,000 square feet and the other being 7,000. And again, the only reason is the existing conditions. At this time, I'd like to swear in Mr. Kashuba.
You swear from testimony to give before this board with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Joseph Kashuba, KBA Engineering Services, Manasquan, New Jersey.
And just, Mr. Kashuba testified before, you recognize him as an expert.
Thank you very much.
And we're just going to mark one exhibit as A1, which is the development plan dated 8/22/14. That'll be marked as A1. Mr. Kashuba, you heard Dave's questions regarding the environmental sensitive area. If you can, just walk us through the property, the logistics of it, and then we'll go through the letter.
Certainly. As indicated, this is a 15,000 square foot lot in a 7,500 square foot zone.
What's existing on this?
There's an existing single-family home on the property. It's at the end, or at the corner of Bergen and Sampson. The right-of-way does extend further on Sampson to the south, and Sampson turns 90 degrees and heads west.
Sampson goes,
Correct.
the road of Sampson?
Correct. Sampson continues around in an angle.
So he has frontage on 2 sides Sampson.
Correct. So that
Sampson, and what's the other side?
the other side is Sampson. Sampson and Sampson.
Sampson on top, that's another house there. Another lot, I see.
Correct, another lot here. So it is a very unique property in that it is a corner lot having 2 frontages, but it also is encumbered by freshwater wetlands along the entire southern portion of the property, which are delineated on the plan, and it can be seen as the crosshatched area on our plan. As a result, in concert with working with Aquaterra, the applicant's environmental consultant, we had determined that a more proper development of the property would be to propose the driveway area on the southern portion of the property, which the DEP permit or DEP permitting rules would permit us to do so, and then split the property into the two lots on the 15,000 square foot property. So we are asking for a variance for a 7,000 square foot lot, but the other lot is 8,000 square feet. And the reason for the variance is it is a unique property having, it is a corner lot. Even though we can't utilize that right of way, we don't have the benefit of the southern portion of Sampson Avenue. We are still a corner lot and have a front yard setback on both streets. So our attempt here was purely just to balance the buildable envelopes on the two properties by creating a larger lot on the corner and the smaller lot towards the rear. The access to the property will be through an easement. Again, we push the driveway as far away from the environmental concerns as possible. Utilities will also access the property through that easement.
Is a variance on lot width on this?
I believe that was incorrectly noted. We do not require any lot width variances.
It was an asterisk on there, but it was not.
Correct. It was incorrectly placed on the plan. And as Mr. Pepper had indicated, should this not have been encumbered by environmental concerns, we wouldn't even be before the board. We could submit for an administrative minor subdivision to develop this property. So we are requesting some variances in order to work around that, which is a hardship on the property. Specifically, it's a physical feature uniquely affecting this property.
The only variance you're asking is minimum lot area.
There's two variances noted in the engineer's report: minimum lot area, as well as he's indicated on lot 24.01 that we require a rear yard setback variance. That is a corner lot, so we have two fronts, a side and a rear. So it's my opinion that we don't require a variance for showing one of those as a side. Typically on corner lots, we don't have two rears, we have a side and a rear. But I would.
Two fronts, you have two rear.
Typically, it's two fronts, a side, and a rear, to not overly encumber a corner lot. Those are the only two variances noted. Again, I don't think the second variance is required. We did notice for it. We are requesting it because it was noted in the report, but I don't believe it's proper.
Anything in the report that you cannot agree with?
No.
No, we can comply with all the conditions. There's an indication about curb and sidewalk. The curb is in fair condition. I agree with the engineer. We can provide sidewalk, or replace the sidewalk that's in poor condition. I would want the record to note that we are proposing those on the improved portion of the road, and we're not required to put sidewalk and curb up the environmentally sensitive end of Sampson.
In front of your property?
In front of our property, correct.
There will be sidewalks on both ends of Sampson Avenue?
Correct.
Curbs and sidewalks.
Mr. Kashuba, would you agree that the benefits of granting the variance outweigh the detriments?
Almost certainly. One of the purposes of planning is to enhance the environment. So we're trying to do that as best we can with a very unique piece.
Technically, if not for the wetlands, you wouldn't have any variance.
Correct. It would be fully conforming, and we're just trying to make it work with what's there.
Mr. Herzl, I note in the review letter that there is a required waiver or in addition.
What number?
On the letter of December 1st, 2016. In addition, there is an access easement is proposed to a new lot to service future lot.
Which page are you on?
I'm on page,
the description.
page 2. In addition, proposed encroachment of the wetlands buffer is required to construct the access driveway to service new lot 2402. So we're encroaching into a wetlands buffer.
We understand that, and we, our environmental consultant has reviewed that and feels very confident that we can gain those approvals for that encroachment. And we certainly agree that any approval will be conditioned upon providing those approvals to the board.
So, should this board concern itself with that? If there's a wetlands buffer there and you're proposed to put a driveway across,
Well,
it shouldn't have
It's outside of,
reasons why?
Well, it would be outside the jurisdiction of this board, because what we're saying is, we agree wholeheartedly that this application will be fully conditioned upon getting that permit. The process to get these permits is usually costly and very timely. We're here before the board to see if it's worth it to go forward with that, to get the approval. We've already spent some money with our engineering, with our environmental expert, who's indicated this is not something that's not going to be an issue.
I think that is the board, this board can concern itself with that if it wants to, or to defer to the DEP. But, you know, maybe they say, well, we don't want to let development in an area that's a wetlands buffer, no matter what the DEP says. And I think they have the authority to do that because of the variance you're asking for the undersized lot. And looking at your map, it shows a 50-foot wetlands buffer that goes right through the middle of the building envelope.
Correct. We would be proposing a wetlands fill application, which would eliminate any buffer requirements.
Well, how does that work? Show the board where I'm talking about. I mean, this 50-foot buffer goes right through the middle of the lot.
This is, yes, there was, actually, I'm sorry, it was delineated, we don't have an LOI from the department. That would all be submitted at one time, the LOI and the general permits necessary for the development.
What is a wetlands buffer?
A wetlands buffer is a separation from an actual wetlands line. So we're not affecting the physical wetlands, we are affecting the area that creates a buffer between that and for potential development.
So that goes into Sampson Avenue, which you say will not be developed?
Correct. The physical wetlands go on to the Sampson Ave right of way.
So what's the nature of those wetlands? Is it like a swamp? Is it a stream? What is it?
It is what we anticipate to be a intermediate resource value wetland. It is wet. It is a wet area that is low-lying and wet through most of the year.
So aren't buffers designed to try to prevent encroachment into that area so the wildlife and the water quality and everything has a little bit of breathing room?
Correct, and that's why the department has identified general permits that permit us to affect those buffers. The state rules are trying to balance the potential to develop a property owned by a potential owner with the environmental benefits, and it's our requirement to submit to the department, make those applications, demonstrate to them that what we're proposing strikes that proper balance between the environmental conditions and the potential to develop a private piece of property. And it's our opinion, and not just mine, but my environmental consultant's opinion, that we can certainly demonstrate that to the department and gain the approvals necessary.
And if we don't get those approvals, I apologize. If we don't get those approvals from the DEP, it's nothing further.
They can do any side, driveways, anything can be done on a buffer, a wetland buffer?
No, they have to get the permits for what they're showing with the driveways and the grading and the disturbance.
Do you believe the DEP would give it?
Oh, I don't know. That's you have to
get the.
As the applicant pointed out, they may not have an answer for 18 months, and if the board is not going to, they're asking for your approval for not only the variances, but notice the design waiver. The design waiver to not improve Sampson Avenue because it is in a wetlands, and to not put shade trees along Sampson Avenue because it's in the wetlands and a wetland buffer. That's part of the application. If you're not going to approve that, they're not going to go to DEP. They're only going to go to DEP if you approve this. It doesn't make sense for them to go to DEP first, come here and get denied.
My point.
That makes no sense.
My point in bringing back after they go to DEP.
My point in bringing this up is it's not. I don't know if this board just wants to not hear about that or understand what the environmental issue is there, and I think this board does have the ability to scrutinize this because they're asking for variances. So that gives you, I think, a bigger hook to look at it more closely.
I do think the board.
I'm sorry. You certainly have to get outside agency approvals, but you have to ask yourself: does this board want to facilitate building into a wetlands buffer? That's up to you. I just wanted to make sure you understood what the issue
And
was. I think it was just kind of. It wasn't emphasized.
If DEP says that it's no problem, we still have the right to deny it?
I think you do because they're asking for an undersized lot. You can say no, keep the lot.
It's not undersized.
Yeah.
The way they're configuring it, it's undersized.
based upon the existing environmental area, we're asking for two lots, one 8,000 square foot, one 7,000 square foot. What we acknowledge, and it's right in the report, and it's why we agreed, we have no objection to anything that's in the report. We understand we have to go to the DEP, and we have to get the permits, but as indicated, this thing could take, 12, 18 months, as well as there's added expense and everything. We did the due diligence to go ahead and get a environmental consultant to look at this property and say, look, before we start spending money on engineering, spending money on legal fees, spending on applications to the board, we've done some legwork already. And we agree, if the DP does not, we agree to everything that, including that we need outside agency approval. If not, if this board deems it, that it's an application they're willing to approve, and then we don't get the outside approvals, it's done.
If we approve it, it's only subject to outside.
100, we have no objection. It's in the letter, and we agree to that 100%.
That is jog out, you had this 18-foot jog out, that's to turn the cars around?
Correct.
Well, she only takes 42 foot to turn the car, you only got 36.
I'm sorry, with the 42-foot dimension for turning a single passenger vehicle around?
Right. All your parking lots are the same thing.
Typically, you
24
have
foot and
18 and 24 in a single, correct, but in a single line. If you're backing up and turning around, it's my professional testimony, an 18-foot wide backup area with an 18-foot wide driveway is sufficient to make that turning move.
Could you make it 18 and 24?
We could, but we're going to encumber the wetlands further. We're trying to balance and keep as far out of the wetlands as possible.
John, do you think it will work? 8? Dave, what's your opinion?
I understand this point of trying to balance it. It can work, it's tight. I mean, I don't know if we should make this, I don't know if we should consider making this house a little smaller to make it better.
You back out of a parking spot.
It's tight.
In the parking lot. See, how close do you come to the car this parking lot? You come right to it, and then you drive out.
Correct.
That's 42 foot.
This is a 90-degree orientation. It's not, we're not proposing that there's another car and obstruction right here. As you back into it, it
So
might
they
take.
So they get to live there, and then they pull in their head in and stay.
Understood.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from any board members? Angela?
Can you speak again? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So where, for the proposed lot 2402, where is the parking or where's the driveway going to be?
The parking is here. We have identified a number 4 there. That's the 4 parking stalls. The driveway extends from Sampson to that point, and we have the backup area here that's 20 feet by 18 feet, which will allow for vehicles to back in, make a K-turn, and turn out.
And just so I can understand, Sampson, that portion is unimproved and it's wetlands, so most likely will never be.
Correct.
Isn't this functionally, Mr. Magno, making a flag lot? And don't we have an ordinance against that still, or is that repealed again?
We have
There's like a window where
we
it's
have
repealed.
2 frontages, so it's certainly not a flag lot.
I'm just saying functionally, like a de facto flag lot because of Sampson and just the nature of it and how it's a wetland.
To answer your question, yes, flag lots are still prohibited. I do not generally review plans in detail, but when I had glanced at it, my first reaction was the same earlier this week. It does resemble a flag lot, definition-wise, I'm not sure what that is, but absolutely.
You're bringing up something that I'd like the applicant to address. There's a statutory provision that says all building lots must front on an improved street. Does your lot 2402 front on an improved street?
That statute does permit for the improvement to be through an easement. That statute refers to safety, in my opinion.
Absolutely does not. Let's get the statute out and read it.
Well, he's asking for the design waiver from improving Sampson.
Yeah, but the statute says you must build, all building lots must be on an improved
The point
street.
is, he's asking for the waiver.
I think that's a variance. Let's take a look at the statute.
I don't think Mr. Jackson is speaking about the township plan.
I'm looking at that state, MLUL statute says all building lots must front on an improved
So you're saying that's a variance, that's a variance design waiver?
Yeah, that's a, let me double check that statute.
One second. Everybody, please be quiet. Please go outside to talk. We cannot hear over. Mr. Jackson, can we continue with the
Of course,
public
of course.
view?
I'll find it.
Would you want to say fine? Okay, so I will open up to the public.
I'm objecting.
Okay, Mr. Klein.
Somebody wants to sign me?
You're from?
State Farm,
Shlomo Klein?
do you swear from testimony you give to the same will be the truth and the
I affirm. Well, Angela, whatever your last name is, you brought up, I think, great to have you as a board member. You brought up a very good point as far as flag lots. You know, this is the first house that is going to create this town to look like New Square. New Square has all lots, have flag lots. They don't have so many cars like over here, so they could use the access easement not as driveways, they use it as walkways. But that's what they have. So everybody in Lakewood, be aware that after this board approves this application, anybody that has a big backyard, booms, come over here, flag lots will be permitted. And I just want to bring up her point. If it's a flag lot and it's not prohibited, this should be going to the zoning board, not even to the planning board. I don't think you could. Okay, I don't think you could vote. I know they're checking in it, but actually, she brought up that point. That doesn't mean that I didn't do my research beforehand. I'm just confirming that she brought up a good point.
Thank you very much.
I didn't finish it.
Someone else sworn in?
Yes.
Yeah, you should do so.
And as far as if you're asking for a waiver, and I understand because it's a wetland, waiver should be granted on a side lot when he doesn't have access to it. But once you're asking for a waiver, technically, that is not, you want to claim that it's not frontage anymore. So what you're doing over here is you're doing a driveway through that lot. That is a flag lot. Doesn't mean that if it's an unapproved road, you're not approving it, you're asking for a waiver. So that means that this becomes a flag lot once the waiver is granted. But I want to bring up another point about what's going on over here. He claims that he has almost conforming lots. When you have, somebody has a lot, when the ordinance was that you have to have 7,500 square feet, it means is you have a house and you have a little bit land they left in, you should have 7,500 with a little bit setbacks. But when you go and you use that setbacks and that undersized lot and you use it for a driveway for the other guy in the back to have access to it, you take away of the usage of the 7,500 square feet. So not only does he have an undersized lot of 7,500 square feet, giving this access easement to the back lot, the front lot becomes way undersized. And we have this a lot. People come in and they call roads access easement. They call it driveways. And we complain to the township about it. I know this is only one house, but this idea that an applicant could come in and give somebody else access to a road and not calling it a road and call it an access and still calculating it in the square footage of the R75, I think is totally wrong. But again, I'm not objecting to this application. Thank you.
Mr. Herzl, I found the statute I was looking for. 40:55D35, building lot to abut a street. No permit for the erection of any building or structure shall be issued unless the lot abuts a street giving access to such proposed building or structure. Such street shall have been duly placed on the official map or be an existing state, county, or municipal street, or on a street shown on a plan approved by the planning board, or 3, a street on a plat duly filed with the office of the county recording officer before the passage of an ordinance under this act. Such street shall have been certified to be suitably improved to the satisfaction of the governing body, or such suitable improvement shall have been assured by means of a performance guarantee in accordance with standards and specs for road improvements approved by the governing body, as adequate with respect to public health, safety, general welfare, and special circumstances of a particular street. And it shall have been established that the proposed access conforms with the standards of the State Highway Access Management Code. So That statute, in my view, requires an improved public street, or you get a variance.
To be clear, that State Highway Access Management Code, it further goes on, it says only when it's a state road.
One second.
But if it's not a state road, it has to be duly certified as improved by the governing body.
Mr. Jackson.
And this is not a newsflash for you.
One second, please. Mr. Jackson, if it needs a variance, it can't come to our board. It's a zoning board because
No.
we can give flag lots.
This board can grant variances.
On
Well,
flag lots.
It's not a
It does not need a variance for flag lot, per what Mr. Jackson is saying, it needs a variance for fronting on an improved street.
well, it might actually be, I have to think about whether an easement is really, is effectively a flag lot. But I don't think a flag lot is a variance.
Yes, it is. Flag lots are expressly prohibited uses in the township.
That's prohibited use. That's why we don't see it.
Again, for the record, we respectfully disagree this is a flag lot. I also just like to continue reading on in the same book that Mr. Jackson is reading. I said disagree, it is not a flag lot. But again, there is case law, very clear, in Pigman versus Loutman.
What page are you on again?
I'm on page 782, in the middle of the page.
The brown one?
Yeah, 2017, yeah.
782.
Yeah, 782. The court went on to say that street frontage requirements could be dispensed with provided that adequate access for emergency vehicles is assured by some lesser means of access, which will also protect any future street layout shown on the official map or master plan of streets duly adopted by the planning board. We are indicating here, we're not hiding anything. Sampson Avenue cannot be, it's a paper street that exists that will not be built on based upon the fact that there are freshwater wetlands on the property. We are asking for a access easement to be given so that the rear lot can have access to the back of the property. We do not meet the criteria of a flag lot. We would not have come in, that's not how we proposed it.
What's the difference from a regular flag lot? You also have an access easement going to that point.
Well, again,
They don't have access to that there is no public road in those cases. The only access is, in this case, we are encumbered by an environmental condition that creates this. It is a very unique situation, but we do have frontage on a public right-of-way. Whether it's improved or not, the definition would be that one of the lots does not have frontage on a approved public right-of-way. So by definition, we are not a flag lot. And I should indicate that this board approves private streets on regular occasion, which are also not, by definition, as indicated by Mr. Jackson.
Here you have a question about flag lot. But Dave, you're shaking your head. I don't know which
Well,
direction.
I don't think it's a flag lot either, because it does have frontage, even though the street is unapproved. Whereas a flag lot has minimal frontage for a driveway to access the back of the lot.
I agree
And that's
with that.
the
It's not a
only
flag lot.
frontage it has. That's where I think the difference is.
I agree with that. It's not a flag lot, but the intent of the flag lot ordinance has to be considered, because since that's wetlands, it's very unlikely that a street will ever go there, whether it's on the map or not, so. And I think you certainly need a variance. What Mr. Pfeffer was reading from was a case where the court held that a Board of Adjustment could grant the variance if it was satisfied that there was adequate access, and it was upholding the variance, but you still have to grant a variance, which requires weighing a positive and negative criteria, et cetera, and I think you have to look at this as to whether it is.
as abundance of caution, we would respectfully ask the board to grant, we were going to request that variance from the statute.
Mr. Herzl, are you satisfied with the professional's testimony, or are you interested in the flag lot definition from the UDO? Mr. Herzl?
Yes.
Are you satisfied with the professional's testimony, or do you want the flag lot definition from the UDO?
So why don't we take a look at that? A lot within building which fronts on an access strip rather than on a abutting a public street.
Mr. Franklin, what's your opinion?
And with access there to, over, upon, and across a private access drive within the access strip.
Mr. Jackson, Mr. Franklin, you want to see the ordinance?
Rather than necessarily prohibited from, as well as.
I think you're taking a lot to try to shove it in.
Yeah. It's not a buildable piece.
I would feel more comfortable, go to DEP first. There's too many loose ends over here. Honestly, I'm just one vote, but,
You're taking a lot and trying to shove it into one.
Okay.
It doesn't fit.
You give me 1 minute. It's open to the public. If I can talk to my client, you could take more public.
I could open it?
It's open already. You open it for the public, and then
Okay, so you could.
So I have for the public.
Yes, sir. You come forward. You have to be affirmed. Raise your hand and state your name for the record. One at a time, please.
It's not very calm and cool. I'm ready to make a rocket.
You have the map up there.
Sir,
There's really-
are you here on behalf of the applicant?
No, I live right there on the corner of Bergen and Sampson.
Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please state your name and give your address.
Elchanan Shapansky, 352 Bergen Avenue, Lakewood, New Jersey, 08701.
Okay, hold on. There has to be on the record. That's okay.
Sir, can you spell your name for us?
First name Elchanon, last name Schepansky. Okay, first I would like to open up by I live there.
Record will reflect Mr. Fullman is stepping down. It wasn't because of you, I assure you.
I understand that. Am I wasting my time?
No, Mr. Fullman excused himself from this case. He's not sitting on the case.
I got
just want
you.
the record.
I got you, okay.
I know it's confusing, but sometimes members have to leave.
I understand. I
And I
figured
said, I don't know if he had a conflict, and that's why he didn't say why he stepped down. He might just.
I got you. May I proceed?
Please, direct your comments to the board.
Okay. So, I live there on the corner of Bergen and Sampson. Okay, so if you don't mind, I'd just like to open up we'll view together what the property looks like. Not just on paper, but an actual picture. If you could pull that up. Is it possible to zoom it in a little bit?
The record will reflect that the board secretary has up on the screen a Google Earth image of the property in question.
So I personally, am I Lakewood? Just a point. I'll stand this up.
Keep your voice up, sir.
Okay. I personally live in this house right over here. In front of my house is Bergen Avenue. Okay. I'm here together with two of my. Oh, okay, fine. Now let's just before I start, that's what I live. Now let's just I just want to explain to the board and what exactly is there existing right now. Right now, this entire block, this whole thing, up until around here, which is about 3/4 of the block, is vacant. They just opened ground, they just put in the foundations for new duplexes a few days ago. Okay? On my side of the street, where you can see over here, there's a huge cul-de-sac opening on Bergen Avenue. Also, there's only one existing structure here. Nobody lives in there, nobody owns it yet. Okay, this is all vacant. So really, the only people that are living on the block is myself and my two neighbors. We're the only ones there. There's no one else there. Now, the house that we're talking about is this house. Okay, that's what I come to represent, this house. So this is my corner. Okay, I live over here. There's a house over there existing. So number one, what he wants to do is he wants to take an existing a lot with one house. Okay, he's going to knock that down. He's building one house, a single house in the front, and the backyard, which should be a backyard, he decided, he goes, oh yeah, I have some space there. I'm going to make another single house behind it. So when you're standing on Sampson Avenue, facing the house that they would like to represent, right now there's a little hut there. And taking it down, you're going to see the side of one single house. Behind it is going to be another single house. Okay? I'd like to exemplify say a time. Then, on the left of it, they misrepresent.
We get it.
So now, I'm telling you, now this area, this is totally wooded. Okay? Up until here, around here is owned by the property on Route 88. This part over here is wetland. This part over here is owned by the township. It's Sampson Avenue, continuation of Sampson Avenue on paper. Okay? Now, with that said, I'd like to come forth and say, first of all, I don't understand, and this is 100% the flag lot. This is a regular first-class flag lot. When you take a property with one house, knock it down, and build one house, and then build another house behind it. So, number one, I don't even know how the application got here. It's a flag lot. Flag lot has to go to the zoning board. It can't come here. So that's number one. Huh?
Yeah, I think we get the message. Yeah.
Could I please, as a citizen, I would like to
And
please.
sir, just in my opinion, it is not technically a flag lot. It's a lot like a flag lot. I think the board has to consider the intent of the flag lot ordinance, because Sampson cannot be developed apparently, and because, they're looking for other variances, and because of the variance that a lot has to abut on an improved street, I think they can weigh all that, but I think this board does have jurisdiction over this case, and it's not technically a flag lot.
Okay, now, just in regard to the Sampson Avenue being a paper street, in regard to Sampson Avenue being a paper street and can never be developed, I was upstairs about 2 months ago, and I personally spoke to Jeff, the township engineer. I said, Jeff, can you tell me, is it possible for anybody to come and build on it, that wetland? He said, sure. It costs a lot of money. You could dry it out, and he explained to me a whole bunch of stuff you could do. He said the area could definitely be dried out. If it can be dried out, and he told me this, Jeff told me this himself, and if a person wants to come develop that wooded area and comes to the township and says, we would like to pay to pave Sampson Avenue, the township will agree 100%. So he said, you can't tell me that it's never going to be, we're never going to develop it, because it could be will. And I personally went to the township committee, and I asked them, I said, is it possible, to vacate that? I would like to get it. They said, no, we can't vacate it. It could be, it will be developed. So that's just.
But you just confirmed that it's not a flag lot.
What?
You just reaffirmed their position that it's not a flag lot, that it is on a public street, that the committee said one day may be approved.
Okay, but the way they were representing is that their driveway, right, is right next to a road that's never going to be approved. So what's wrong? What are we taking away? So I just wanted to clarify that the engineering
I think you're both right.
What?
I think you're both right.
Okay, now let me just move on. Now, like this, really, you're starting a new. I'm not a politician, and I'm not trying to make noise. I'm just a regular local citizen that would like to live peacefully. I'm a teacher, 4th grade boys, and that's it. But really, you're starting a new trend in town. Everybody that has a little bit of space in his backyard, right? I'll put up another house. I have 100-foot backyard.
I assure you.
What?
Okay, thank you. I'll get that. It's late.
I understand, but I waited for 2 hours. What?
I heard. You're not saying anything new.
Please, have some lunch. Please. Thank you. Okay. Secondly, this is just to add on that point, the whole characteristic of the neighborhood is being changed. Right now, it's all duplexes. This person wants to come in and put a single lot behind a single house behind another single house. He's changing the whole neighborhood. He's changing the whole neighborhood. The entire neighborhood, that whole area that's vacant right now, is going to be all duplexes. And he wants to come and change that. And also, I would like to talk about the safety. The safety issue that is going to propose. Right now, he has 15,000 square feet. One lot's going to be 8,000, one's going to be 7,500. Now, what? 7,000. Now, the whole left of the property, where's that? There's a whole left that's going to be a driveway. Does that come up to 7,500? Why is that not? Well, that's going to knock it much less than 7,000 or 8,000. And also, I live right there on the corner. I would like to talk about the safety. These 2 new houses are going to bring, let's say each house is a single house, probably, let's say 2 basements. So it's going to be, each house is going to bring probably like 6 to 8 cars. So it's an extra 16 cars on a single driveway, no outlet, single driveway, no place to move. Kids riding bikes, coming in and out.
I hear you loud.
What?
I hear you loud.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else from the public like to be heard? Seeing no more, close it.
Can I just ask the last objector a question?
1 second.
I didn't catch your name.
You want to speak?
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there somebody else? You want to speak?
You want to speak? Okay, fast, let's wait. Please take your name for the record.
Is she Hoffman?
You swear affirm
Speak into the mic.
You swear affirm the testimony you'll give before this board with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Please spell your name.
MOSHEHOCHMAN.
Please proceed.
I don't know, 358 Bergen Avenue. That's one of the two duplexes over there. We didn't object any other duplex in the whole area. We don't want any duplexes. We just want non-common sense, just common sense. We don't know if it's a flag lot or not. I don't know anything about these things. We just want common sense, and we want a nice neighborhood. And I don't think this brings common sense and a nice neighborhood.
Thank you. Okay. We'll close it to the public now.
Just talking about the duplexes, again, we believe that we can go in for a fully conforming duplex. It wouldn't even come before the board. If the neighbors prefer to see a duplex here, I mean, you know, so be it. It's the same.
No problem with a duplex. Make a duplex.
One second, please.
We believe we can make a fully conforming duplex on this property. So, again,
Then I think that the board is going to say that you should do whatever's
I understand. I just, the only thing I was going to say, just.
I don't think the board is comfortable with this application.
I understand that the board is going to vote how they vote. I just would like to say, just on behalf of the applicant, that we were not misrepresenting anything. We came in with the application. I don't want any, you know, a lot of things were said, that we're trying to do something, a flag lot. We just showed the design. We're on the street. We believe, based upon our engineers and our professionals, that this was a good application, that this was right, and it's all here before the board. We're not trying, there's no smoke and mirrors
Yeah,
here.
I want to make clear, it is a single-family zone. We were proposing a single family, and as far as the nature of the area, I see on that map up on the wall, at least 6 single-family homes in that area. So I believe my testimony has been accurate. I don't believe we've misrepresented anything.
Thank you. Anybody would like to make a motion?
Second motion.
Okay. We have a motion to deny, and we have a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Franklin.
Yes.
Mr. Hipperson.
Yes.
Mr. Flansbrough.
Yes.
Mr. Herzl.
Yes.
Ms. Zagrafos.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next. We have
Yeah,
that
thank
one
you.
on the agenda for you.
Yeah, we have 2 big ones that kind of go together, then we have 2 extensions, and a minor and a concept. You want to just keep going in order? Or do you want to do the extensions?
On the I have the next 2 applications, the ones that are the large one. I can tell you that the applicant did work with the neighbors. We have submitted revised plans.
It looks quiet out here.
Yes, there are some people here, neighbors here, but we do have an agreement. We'd like to put we would like to put it on. I don't think it's going to be as bad as it was last time. We started, went about an hour, and then we carried it. But we did give submit, revised plans.
The Prospect Street Holdings are the subdivision with the synagogue that's going on one of those lots. They were here at the last application with a design that had changed sort of at the last minute, and the board wanted to see full plans, the full review letter. They have done so.
I'm sorry, what?
It's numbers 4 and 5.
What else do we have?
Well, just when you say it's a long application, I believe we can do it fairly quickly. It says that, it's my understanding, the neighbors that are here are going to be in favor of it, but I'll leave them to speak. I don't want to speak for them. But we have met some agreements, and we would like to give our testimony on it. So,
Is there any opposition to number 405 here in the audience?
on the Prospect Street,
Prospect, anybody have any opposition?
they have conditions that we are going to agree to. I believe that they don't want to say they're objecting. I believe they want to say, as long as we meet certain criteria, they're not going to have an objection. But I'm not. Again, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth.
We've got 2 extensions. I would say let's do the extensions real quick, get rid of those. That way we're not doing them after this one's over. All right. Mr. Pepper, we're going to take 2 extensions under number 6 and 7, and then we're done with these. So we're looking at number 6, application SD 1949 for Aaron Finkelstein. This is an extension of a minor subdivision to create 6 fee simple lots from 4 lots on Congress and Bruce.
And Dave, could you just explain again what the extensions are for? Why you going for extension? How do you want?
Just because Dave probably hasn't reviewed these extension applications. We are coming up on the tolling period for minor subdivisions that were extended during the Permit Extension Act. Any that are not filed by that June 30th deadline may lose that approval. I'm not sure if they can retroactively extend it, so we have a few that are coming in just to get an additional extension to cover any time they need to get outside agency approvals before they can finalize
There's
those.
nothing changing on the plan. Everything is
Nothing
stable.
changing from the original approval, it's simply an extension of time.
And how long do we usually give?
Usually it's 1 year per request.
You need a reason why, they should have to give a reason why they didn't get it filed within the time period, that's a requirement, so what's the reason? Where from testimony given before the court, with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but
I do. Glenn Lyons, professional engineer, professional planner, Lakewood, New
So
Jersey.
what's the reason for extension?
This application actually, we hadn't worked on it in a while. We have submitted to the county. We haven't made it to the county agenda for them to approve it. They have to approve it before we can submit it back. So we're kind of in that process. We know we're not going to be done in the next, 20 days. So
you're waiting for county approval?
we're waiting for
to
county
submit to
approval
county.
on it.
So what do you need, a year?
1 year?
Well, 1 year is what the normal extension's for. We'll be done before that,
So
but
1 year extension?
yes,
And if you need more, you'll have to come back.
we would have to go back.
Do we have a motion?
Second.
Okay. Roll call. All in favor? Aye. Okay, any nays? No. Okay, approved.
Okay, the next extension is for Yeshiva Ruach Ketorah. This is a preliminary and final major site plan school campus on Ridge Avenue. This is a site plan, this is different. Most of the extensions we've been seeing are subdivisions, which have a filing deadline, a hard and fast deadline, which they were approaching. Site plans traditionally are valid, my understanding is, for a certain number of years, and then if or until there is a zone change. The campus ordinance requirements changed after this approval to only apply to accredited institutions. So my understanding is that this approval could be invalidated if it were not still current, and if they were to go forward with a new approval today, they would actually require zoning board
I
approval.
have a question, Mr. Jackson. If the campus law has changed, is that a zone change, and can we give the extension?
Yes, the extension does, the applicant does have the right to ask for the extension. That will extend the period of approval. And I think they're actually entitled to,
3 1-year
Three
for
one-year
a site plan.
That's even if the zone has changed?
yes, well, that's the whole purpose of protection against the zoning change.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So do we have a motion on this one? We have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Okay, nays, no. Approved. Any more extensions?
That's it. We have a minor subdivision, a concept, and then the big one we talked about. Oh, we also have notice under the correspondence, which we had left behind, Mr. Yosef notice. For that rear yard setback variance for the stairwell that was required.
Is anybody here on correspondence number SB 2225, which is Yosef notice?
Yes.
Somebody's here now? Is Brian here?
Yes. Do you want to open that to the public since we did hear from Brian already?
I don't know if you've seen it.
By the way, on that extension, the last one, did they give a reason why they could not complete, or what is it, to work with the county? Is that correct, Liza? Still work with the county on that?
Well, we're at the point we can get our county approval, and they're ready, we've applied for our building permits for the building, but we're concerned that if we
You're
don't,
not gonna get it in time.
we're not gonna get in time, and to
You've been
protect
diligently
our,
pursuing.
Yes, between the county, the sewage authority who has worked with us, but it's been a very long process.
And you haven't filed your final site plan yet, right?
He's been working on a final compliance with us, so that's why I'm familiar with it.
Right.
Okay, great. I'll put that in the resolution. I just wanted to hear the reason.
Right.
Thank you. So I can put it in the resolution.
Either let's take the correspondence or let's go to prospect, I guess.
Yeah, Ally, I don't think we're gonna finish.
We could do the minor and the concept.
Mr. Chair, the only thing I would say,
We have 5 people in we all.
I didn't hear what you said.
We only have 5 people, and we're saying 10 out of 5. Everybody else left.
We have two guys left already.
Everybody else left. It's not fair that 5 of us should sit here at 10 o'clock. So we're finishing.
If you're telling me to finish at 9 o'clock, I won't finish in 20 minutes. I will agree, I'm not gonna finish in 20 minutes. That's fine, I thought that, I didn't hear that part. If you're finishing at 9 o'clock, I would like to request this, that we carry to the next meeting with no further notice and a waiver. What's the next meeting? Just
Yes, okay. We'll take a recess.
We have 2-minute recess.
It does not sound like correspondence is going to go as quickly as we hoped.
Nothing goes as quickly.
So after the recess, we might as well do the minor subdivision, see what happens with that.
They had the chance already to change it.
what was the next meeting?
July 25th. There's nothing on July 12th.
Well, I have a couple things I could
Have
put,
a special meeting just for this.
I have a couple things that we could put on. We could move the prior one and have plenty of stuff.
The neighbors who all came out based on this agreement asked if it's possible. They said it's going to be very quick. They're going to say they're in favor of it once they hear that the applicant is agreeing.
Correct. I said it's very clear. Hey,
What are you waiting for? We have to wait for Mr. Angelo. We don't have to call.
Actually, we know. Curbing, sidewalks, spot zoning, whatever we want to call it.
Yes.
Okay, so, right.
Again, the neighbors are here.
They're opposing?
No, if we agree to, we have an agreement and we're gonna put it on the record. I don't want to speak for them, but they're here. You tell them, all due respect, the neighbors are here. It's up to the board, whatever you want to do.
Mr. Dundu.
What are we doing, number 4?
No, the correspondence.
Oh, correspondence? Oh,
The correspondence is being held. Correspondence is being held. The neighbors are here. They have some concerns. We'll want to work that out.
Okay, so members of the public, be advised that correspondence item SB 2225 for Yosef Notice is being tabled from tonight's meeting and will be adjourned until the July 25th public hearing, which is currently the next public hearing. 6 o'clock, this meeting hall, no further notice will be provided.
It's going to be at the end of the meeting. Okay, and so which one are you talking about?
We're now on the 2 applications back to back. SD 2208, which is the first one, and the second one will be SD 2231, but we can't get to 2231 until we create the subdivision for.
But you're not going to hear that tonight. We're not going to finish 15 minutes. Okay, so we'll move that to the July 25th.
I would respectfully request only their neighbors, everyone's here, that we go on for the.
Which one is that?
If the board wants to come here
Prospect
on
Street.
July 12th for this application, certainly, or July 25th is open as well.
We attended
4 and 5, I think it's 4 and 5 or 3. The 2 back to back.
I believe this is the second public hearing. on
Prospect
the
Street Holdings. There are 2.
No shows.
Excuse me.
I know it's the third hearing, but we had, these were complicated hearings, it's the third hearing, you're right.
And
So-
we leave 9 o'clock in the middle of the hearing.
I mean, I'm not saying that.
We push up other things.
Number 4 is a new application.
You start, we started the application. During the application, the board indicated they wanted to see some revisions, which we made and we submitted, and we have a new review letter. So it's a new I'm gonna call it a new application, we're gonna start the whole thing from scratch. Yes.
And could you do it in 15 minutes?
We can do a lot of things.
It's an application that should go in 15 minutes. I don't know if Mr. Klein is going to spend a lot of time. The neighbors have indicated to me, I've spoken with them, that once we say we're agreeing with what's on, they're okay with it. The application is very simple to...
Thank you, I appreciate it. Good evening, Adam Feverton on behalf of the applicant. We're here before on application 2208, Prospect Street Holdings. Yes. No problem.
His report.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
No problem. This is a subdivision in the RM multifamily residential zone. What's being proposed are duplexes and a lot for a place of worship. Variances are required for minimum lot area. The combination of new lots 903, 904, proposed lot area of 8,751.44 square feet, whereas 10,000 square feet is required. A minimum front yard setback is required for proposed lot 9.06. That front yard is 22.50 feet to Blanche Street, whereas 25 foot is required. It should be noted that there's a corner property, which is the reason for the request. The front yard setback to the other street, Amsterdam Avenue, would be compliant. And any variances for the proposed synagogue lot would be acted upon on the next application, which would be the site plan application for the synagogue. And the new plans have eliminated the need for any previous design waivers that were required before.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Before you start, this application was here before. This synagogue lot is part of a different application?
No, I'm going to explain everything right now very quickly. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Adam Feverton of the applicant. As Dave indicated, this application fronts on Blanche, Amsterdam, and Columbus Avenue. We originally before the board it was last month for an application for 4 duplexes and 1 extra lot, which was going to be for the synagogue. There was a lot of opposition, there were a lot of questions from the board. We went back to the table and we redesigned it. We've now come back with 3 duplexes. We took a whole duplex out and so it's now for 7 lots, 3 duplexes and a synagogue. Again, there was a lot of talk last time about synagogue being for part of another application. This application is here on its own, by itself, nothing to do with anything else, but any other approvals. If it ends up satisfying a different approval, that's great, but that's not what we're here before in this application. The first application, as I indicated, creates the lots for the 3 duplexes and the 1 lot for the house of worship. I don't want to wait to the next application to put what the neighbors want on. There is a signed agreement between the neighbors. The gist of it, and I have no problem marking it as A2, A3? It'll be A3, and I will give a copy to Mr. Jackson. The main gist of it, and we agree on the record as part of any resolution, is that we are going to create an additional park on, there's a possible 1 lot if it doesn't work out on a different lot, but we agreed to make that part of any resolution, which is what the neighbors are here to listen to. At this time, I want to swear in Mr. Flannery to give testimony regarding Terry's review letter.
You swear from testimony to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Brian Flannery, Jackson, New Jersey, licensed professional engineer and professional planner. And I would like to stress also that the applicant is agreeing as a condition of approval to comply with the terms of that agreement. And that relates to a 20,000 square foot park, and it relates to details of the shore.
How far to this?
Well, it'll be, and in the agreement, it stipulates certain blocks that are available where it'll be, but it'll be in close proximity. And those details are in the report, and the applicant is agreeing that that'll be part of any approval so that the applicant has to comply with that agreement.
Excuse me, when you say close proximity, do you mean adjoining or not?
No, it would be, I have A2, if you have the agreement, list the blocks. but I can show you.
No screaming, no screaming.
Okay.
You have a chance.
A1 shows the property, A2 shows the surrounding lot. So block 441?
454 or 471?
Excuse me, you can't yell from the
cannot scream
audience.
out, please.
Ask me a question.
Mr. Herzl, I think it would be appropriate for the board to know the terms of this agreement, and I've asked Mr. Pfeffer to read it to the record. It's pretty lengthy.
That's why I was just trying to avoid, it is lengthy.
Before you can summarize, I mean, it's more than just building a park, it's building a parking lot, trying to get land from the township committee, and if that's not successful, you're going to put it in a place. It says how many houses the park will accommodate. You know, I don't.
With all due respect, we know how well that has gone for the other approval that this one may or may not be solving a condition of, and now you're putting another condition on this one for a park somewhere else.
Yeah,
this is new. I don't even know what we're agreeing.
There's so many agreements over here.
I think you need time to read that and digest it. I just looked, at the minimum, you should read it to you.
I have no objection to read it. Before we get to this agreement, I would, before we're not even on that, we haven't gotten to that. So before I agree, that's why I didn't want to read this agreement yet, because I wanted to first get to the testimony of our engineer and our planner. So.
And the answer to Mr. Hibberson's question is the two blocks that are in question are 454, which is right across the street, or 471, which is 3 blocks away. And the neighbors that this relates to are on adjoining blocks that are next to it or 1 block over. So it's in proximity to all of those neighbors.
Thank you.
And just to be clear, well, if I can, Brian, if you can walk us through the application and the variances.
Well, this application is for the block, and as Adam indicated previously, there were 4 duplexes. It now has 3 duplexes. The duplex on the corner is over 10,000 square feet. The duplex adjoining the neighbor is over 10,000 square feet. The duplex in the middle, we need a variance for lot area, is 8,751 square feet, where the ordinance requires 10,000 square feet. The Township Committee in 2014 passed an ordinance 2014-8, which said that if townhouses are conditionally permitted and duplexes are conditionally permitted, you're allowed to do the lots at 8,500 square feet. These are outright permitted. It's counterintuitive to think that you would give rights to something that's outright permitted, less than what's permitted for conditionally permitted uses. So we're asking, my interpretation would be on the intent of the ordinance is that the intent of the ordinance is whether you can do townhouses. In this case, by right, we could do 9 townhouses. We're asking for 6 duplex units. And in order to get the 6 duplex units and to have the lot for the shul left over, we're asking for 6 duplex units where 9 townhouse units would be allowed. And the variance that we're requesting is 8,751 square feet instead of 10,000. The other variance that we require is for a front setback, as Dave indicated, on the corner lot of 22.5 feet, where 25 feet is required. And with respect to the subdivision, that is the variance that we're requesting, and we would provide all the other information that's required in the RVV report if the board acts favorably on the application.
Making the motion on this now. We're approving the subdivision. So we're approving the synagogue and the...
3 duplexes and a vacant lot.
But that's a separate application.
Yes, yes, but with the applicant and the neighbors want the action that the board would take to include that agreement, so that the board acts favorably, that agreement is in place, and they can all sleep comfortably tonight.
So my question goes back, do you have any variances on parking on the synagogue?
The synagogue, the RVV report indicates that we're short 3 parking spaces. That's based on 2 of them being in site triangles. And if you do a large site triangle, it impinges on two of them. My testimony would be that we would do an AASHTO site triangle, the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, which is a smaller site triangle. We would provide adequate access, at the site visibility, so that it would meet current standards, and we would not need to lose those 2 parking spaces. So then we would be one short of what the ordinance says. But as you see, we developed the road all the way around the site, so all of Columbus is constructed, and there's availability for parking all along there. If that's not enough for the board, we could open the parking lot out to Blanche Street and add another parking space in there. This site, it flows better this way. It's better for the adjoining neighbors. So we're either one space short on a layout that I think is better, where we had street parking that would certainly compensate for the one. But if the board wasn't happy with that, we would amend the design so that we'd come out on Blanche, and that allows us to close this driveway and fit the additional
The
parking.
original application, how many parking spaces do you have for the synagogue?
The original one was very light on parking.
Yes. I want to say we had single digits. I think it was
4.
Yeah, I think it was. I was going to say 3 or 4.
The original one was 4. We came up with another one that was like 18. Currently, we're at 27.
It's a big jump from 4 to
Yes,
27.
which is why the neighbors are here with an agreement. Yes.
So if I can make a suggestion, again, Mr. Jackson, it's up to you or the board. I would say that's all of our testimony on the subdivision. I know everyone's, we can't act on the synagogue site plan until we do the subdivision. However, as I think we're giving testimony, we could do public comments and one public comment, and we'll do one. We'll continue now giving testimony on the synagogue if the board's okay with that. If you're not, we have no problem. You want to vote on one and wait for the other.
Well, it's up to the board. Are you satisfied with this plan, this layout, the number of units, and what they're going to look like, number of bedrooms, whether it's parking?
I'm not satisfied to vote on the subdivision until I hear
On the
synagogue lays out. That's why I asked him. Once
Right, and
we subdivide it, he can do whatever he wants.
and we're fine giving the testimony.
I don't
on
understand how this ties into the synagogue. Can you explain?
This
We're
subdivision.
creating 6 lots for duplex units and a 7th lot for the synagogue. And then we have a site plan application, which is the next one on the agenda.
But but what is one half? I don't get when it operates and when it's built. Why do the neighbors? They're 2 separate applications. One for synagogue, one for duplexes. How are they related?
Because we can't get the lot for the synagogue until we do the subdivision. This subdivision creates 7 lots, 3 duplex lots and 1 remaining lot, which we now have another
Right,
application.
the subdivision also calls for a site plan, so it's a subdivision. Okay, I just.
The subdivision could be approved without the site plan, you just have
Yeah.
one
Correct.
giant leftover lot.
Correct, right,
That's
and we're saying it's up to the board. We have no problem giving all.
testimony now, so I would say we can continue that way.
And
So-
then, so what, I guess if you just did the subdivision first, you could not approve the synagogue lot.
Right.
Okay, but you want to know what the overall impact will be on the whole neighborhood, so you want to know what's coming.
And we have no
In theory,
objection.
they could get the approval for the synagogue lot and then not build the synagogue. You know what I'm saying? So, or vice versa.
They can tell you they're putting a
You know what
butterfly.
I'm saying? They're not tied into each other necessarily unless you tie them in.
Well, they are. Without the subdivision, you
Can't
can't
do
do
the
the
synagogue.
synagogue.
I think he's saying the other way. He's saying they can tell you they're putting something super gorgeous on the synagogue and never build it.
Right,
Correct.
and then come back in 2 years for
Something else, because it's an
something else
existing
on the
lot.
lot.
Well,
We're not
if you read the agreement, if there's a condition in there that there's no COs on these lots, would be
Well,
allowed.
that's your agreement, and I'm just
Well, that's an
saying.
agreement that we've agreed on the record that would be part of the resolution, so that it's something the applicant would be bound by. So the applicant's not gonna get any COs for the duplexes until the shul and the park have been taken care of.
Does the board get that? Mr. Herzl, what?
Could we vote just on the subdivision today and come back for the rest? I think we should have on record the agreement, so the neighbors don't have to come back again. If they agree to all that.
The agreement applies to
We
the
can make that
second.
part of the approval, and we'll make it a deed restriction.
it would be part of the resolution of the approval.
And we'll make it a deed restriction.
Make which part? I don't know what part you're saying is make it.
Well, the problem is not the problem, but a lot of the improvements and promises are for off-site. How do you enforce that? It's to, from what I quickly gleaned from reading it, is to create 2 parking lots on either side of the shul.
Which are here.
Which are there, which are shown on the site plan, but if you get the subdivision, they might never build those. And it's also for a park that's going to be on property that the
Applicant owns.
the applicant's supposed to either get from the township committee, and absent that, on a different lot that they're going to build. Do they have the money for it? Is it free and clear? Can they put a park there? Do they have money for the improvements? So there's some moving parts to this.
Yes, why don't we wait until they get that piece of property?
No, we have, just to be clear,
Well, they might
there
own
are
it,
two,
but
we
it's not-
own,
How do you enforce them, whichever building the synagogue, to build on this lot off-site? How do you?
Because there's a condition in the subdivision approval that we agree to what's in the agreement, and the agreement says no COs on the duplexes until that is accomplished.
What do you think's going to happen when it's all built and you're applying for your final CO, and then somebody says, well, sorry, we never built the lot? Do you think
Jeff's fault.
they'll say, take down the synagogue? I don't think that'll happen.
It's nothing that's enforceable by any means.
I don't know that it's an off-site improvement, it's a private agreement, and I don't know why that should matter to the board anyway, unless it has something to do with the merits of the application. Just because it makes the neighbors happy doesn't mean it makes the rest of Lakewood happy.
I agree 100% with Mr. Jackson. The reason why we were trying to say, just put the facts on the case, the facts of the application, of each application on the record. Then we were just going to indicate that you've seen that there were a lot more people here last 2 times to object to the application. We have worked with, and I know the board doesn't like to hear that we made an agreement and we're good, we don't need you anymore. That's not the case here. We're still here, we're putting the facts on the record. We'd like to know, and in addition to making the application, as Mr. Chairman just indicated, from 3 or 4 parking spaces up to now 27 parking spaces, we're here trying to make a better application, and happens to be that the neighbors are in favor of this application and they would like to see this application happen. All we're saying is we're agreeing on top of it to make everybody happy. We're agreeing as a condition of approval, this agreement, which we've agreed to and we've signed, be part of the resolution. However that may be, we've worked with the neighbors to make this happen, to make sure that they're happy. We still have to make the board happy. You may come back and say you want to see something different. That's why we're here to listen. But we believe we made a better application.
Do you want to hear what these conditions are? Before you're kind of being...
I think so, before we do anything.
That's fine. I have no problem, before we get to it, can we just give the testimony as to what, on the site plan and the review letter, before we start talking about, because I'll be honest with you, you might hear in the review letter, have another opinion, I don't want to go back and forth. I would like, again, our expert to put on the testimony regarding the site plan for the synagogue, and then we can go forward, and I have no problem, we're going to read the whole thing into the record.
Yes, it's a 2-story shul with a footprint of just over 5,000 square feet and a total of 27 parking spaces. The relief that we're requesting is because we're calling the front of the lot Blanche Street, we need a lot width variance of 73.5 feet, where 75 feet is required. We certainly have plenty of width along Columbus. Minimum front yard setback, the shul as shown on A1, we need we're requesting a 5.8 foot front setback to Columbus, which is a road that we're building that's only accommodating the shul, and we're asking for a rear yard setback for the same shul building of 5 feet, which would go to the new duplex. So any of the existing neighbors, any future neighbors are not being encumbered by the setback relief. The setback relief relates to this piece of property and the new prospective buyers. When it comes to parking, which I indicated before, RVB says we need 28 parking spaces, and we've shown 27. They say the 2 on the corner here, because of a site triangle easement, would have to be eliminated. My testimony is that we would do an ASHTO site triangle, and these have been even approved by the county, who's very difficult in doing it. The ASHTO is the American Association of State Transportation and Highway Officials, and for a highway, that site triangle easement is good. My testimony is that you would have adequate site distance here, even with those cars in the parking spaces. As I indicated, we can open this parking lot to Blanche Street and get additional parking where the entrance is over here. I think this is a preferred design. I think the parking that's proposed, plus the street we're putting in, where 32 feet wide, where you'd be able to park on both sides, also provides more parking than most shuls that come before the board.
One thing in your parking lot, you don't have a turnaround area for parking.
Well, this particular.
There should be a 4-foot kickback there.
This design, we would add that kickback so the cars can come out.
Same on the other end.
Mr.
Then-
Yes.
Then you're out where you got your planning too, it won't be too close.
No, we have sufficient room. It would be a 4-foot return. We have 4 feet at the ends of the parking area.
Mr. Chairman, one of the stipulations in that settlement that the board hasn't heard yet is that there would be parking spaces along that road that they're proposing, I think 32 spaces, and that's part of it. So what happens when people develop the other side of that street? What's on the other side of the street that you're proposing?
A lot that's owned by the township. And that's in the agreement. We have no control over what's on the other side of the street. The applicant will build the street 32 feet wide to accommodate them.
So if that gets developed, then that parking on that side of the street may or may not be there.
Everybody's aware of that, the developer, the neighbors, and now the board.
Why are you building the synagogue in the center of the parking lot?
There's a development to the north of us. Rather than have a building overlooking them, parking on both sides separates the existing neighbors from the building.
There's 2 small parking lots, so hard to turn around and park. One driveway.
But it's the option is either you slide it to the north and then it's infringing on the existing townhouses to the north of us, or you slide it to the south and it's in the front setback. So rather than have the building jammed in on the corner, it is 2 small parking lots.
Would you get more parking space if you shift over the synagogue?
By
putting the parking lots together?
Well, you'd get more parking if you slid the building over the setback on either side. And I don't think it warrants the additional parking. You're probably looking at 2 extra parking spaces to do that. And now you've created additional variances, and you created aesthetically
I just think that one big parking lot is safer than 2 small ones.
Well, my opinion on that would be that if somebody blocks one parking lot, at least the other parking lot people can get out of it. There's benefits and detriments to both ways. It's my opinion that the way it's proposed is what makes the most sense. The last thing that we need is perimeter buffer relief, and the perimeter buffer would be to the existing homes, or the proposed homes that we're building. We need perimeter buffer relief. We would provide a fence which would meet the intent of it, providing the privacy. The review comments in the RVB report, we would agree to comply with the review comments.
Any board members have any questions? John, do you have any questions?
Am I able to cross-examine the professionals? Is that part, not public hearing, I would like to do that.
Okay, now, you want to put the agreement on the record?
We're happy to put the agreement on the record, or just mark it?
Just mark the evidence.
I've marked it as A3.
You want to hear what the terms are?
You want?
You want to hear what the terms are?
Yeah. Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's going to read it.
I'm going to skip the whereases. Synagogue parking. Yes. Provide a shul for the development. The synagogue will be built in the middle of block 405, lot 919 on Columbus Avenue side, with 2 off-street parking lots on both sides. As A3. Yes, yep, no problem. There'll be 2 off-street parking lots on both sides of the synagogue. The 2 lots combined will accommodate the very minimum 27 cars as per township requirements. In addition, Columbus Avenue will now be improved and paved to accommodate approximately 30 additional cars with on-street parking. The on-street parking will be along sides of Columbus Avenue and Blanche Avenue. There will be 1 lot on each side of the synagogue. Park size and location, from that, I'll provide for a park for the development. Park will be 20,000 square foot in size. Park will be on block 471 or block 454. I'm currently working on to obtain over an acre from the township land on block 454 for the park. If obtaining township land is not successful, the park will be on block 471. Just to be clear, so we have a park, property ready to be used for it. So I don't want the board to think that we now have to go to the township. If we don't get it, we'll come back here. We have other property.
The same size.
Yeah, 20,000, we have to give 20,000 square feet. We have enough, but they were like a different piece, and we're gonna try and do it. The park will be adequately furnished so as to accommodate the amount of units that are and will be constructed as part of the project, and projects that a seller has affiliation with within the project area. Park will be completely finished as to fill a 20,000 square foot park area with appropriate park furnishings. I commit to make a 20,000 square foot park on block 471. If a larger township park on block, I apologize. I commit to make 20,000 square foot park on block 471 if the larger township park on block 454 does not happen sooner. I hereby agree to withhold submitting applications for COs required for the 6 units and synagogue on block 445, lot 9 and 19 until the park completed and ready for use.
Did I hear a part about the park does not have to be built if a larger township park is built?
No, we're trying to buy, no, I believe it's indicating, we're trying to acquire a larger parcel from the township. If that happens, that's a larger piece, we will build on that parcel. We've already delineated the lot.
I'm sorry, I just misheard.
No, they defined it as the township park because it's a township-owned parcel, currently. I hereby agree to withhold submitting application for the COs required for the 6 units and synagogue on block 445, lot 9 and 19 until the park completed and ready for use. The application calling for 6 units, a 10,000 square foot synagogue, and 2 parking lots for block 445, lot 9 and 19 will be given into the township at the June 20th planning board meeting with an agreement that there will be no COs issued for the application before the 20,000 square foot park on either block 471 or 454 is completed and ready for use. This agreement will be binding the township resolution. Maximum goes on to the maximum amount of homes. This will
How many is the max? It's like 44 homes?
no, because there's other. I hereby agree that the synagogue would only be used at the very most to accommodate 165 homes. There's other, because there are other homes in the area that will utilize it, but that's the max. It goes on again if there's any disputes that they agree to go to a rabbinical court if they have disputed any of these items.
How many square foot is this?
It's a 5,000 square foot footprint.
Is there a basement and
Yes.
is there a, what do you call it? Kiddush wall? Central wall? I'm trying to learn some of the words.
It's for Shabbos. It's for Sabbath and holidays only.
You agree to no outside sunrise on the weekdays?
Yes.
The agreement that was just read, first of all, you can't just acquire township property. That has to be auctioned. It's a public process.
The agreement says he owns a 20,000 square foot lot. He's saying he's trying to make a bigger one on a township-owned property.
Well, I'm
If
just
that
pointing
doesn't
out
work, right.
that it's not so easy to just acquire a township property.
Oh, I agree.
So the fallback,
I'm sorry.
Who is this agreement between these 5 guys? No, it's between the homeowners association. Well, who's the agreement between?
You want to open to the public at this time, and you'll hear
Well,
from.
what does it say on its terms? Who's with it?
Somebody signing the agreement
It's
on behalf of somebody.
is between.
I'm just wondering, like, who's the agreement between?
It's between Yaakov Kugman, which is right for the buyers of the Prospect Square project, who are the purchasers of the respective homes on block numbers 473, 472, 462, 463, 461, 445, lot 13 in Lakewood.
So it's between who?
so it's the 6 blocks to the south and
So it's
west.
between individual home buyers?
These are buyers on a different project.
And one of the other things is, what is a park? They're going to build a park. Is it deed restricted? Is it in perpetuity? Did the governing body accept it? It talks about improvements that are going in the park. You need site plan approval for a private park? I mean, that's, I don't know how an individual can just take it upon themselves to take the property and make it into a park. It's not that simple. There's all kinds of regulations about. Pardon me? Well, but who's going to manage it and maintain it, and who's responsible when someone falls down and breaks their arm? You know, there's, it's not that simple to
There's
this.
20 loose ends over here.
There's 20 what?
20 loose ends.
Yeah, okay.
That's why I said, that's why I don't know if you saw it. I mean, the guys came out, they wanted to be heard.
I'm just saying, it's not so easy to say we're going to get a park and we're going to improve it. There's all kinds.
I think we want to see plans.
You know, when the developer comes in and a park is part of their plan, the engineer looks at the playground equipment that's on there, where it's located, it's like it's part of the site plan. It's not, you can't.
Mr. Chairman, if I can at this time.
Imagine a park and it's there.
We hear all your questions, I hear all your concerns. We have no problem, no, I understand. And again, this agreement was done between parties. We have no problem come back to further clarify, the terms of this agreement and answer. I hear the questions that the board wants, and we'll come back and provide you the answer.
You know if you'll handle township.
In my opinion, it's irrelevant if we get the township property or not. We have a current property that we own, that if we cannot get it, we know we have a time frame to work on it, because we cannot, part of this agreement, we cannot request a CO for either the synagogue or any of the 3 duplexes on this property until that park is done and in place.
Well, like I said, what happens when your homes are all built, you're ready to go, people moved in there already, and then someone says, the planning board says, wait a minute, you never did the park, which was part of the agreement, and you say, well, you can't get the park.
I am sure Mr. Klein will be here screaming that he can't get a CO.
I know it's gonna happen. It'll open. It won't mean anything.
What will open?
That there was a promise to put a park there. It will be
It's
unenforced.
part of a resolution, just like any other requirement, and we're in agreement. And I can tell you, I won't be before this board asking to waive that condition. So I guarantee you, I'm going to have 160-some people in this room packed, screaming, there was part of a resolution. I have no problem coming back to answer.
The full board feels the applications are ready to.
I think you
We'll
should
come
go
back.
to the governing body and get their approval and signing on to this park and to take it over as a public park. Because I just don't see how a private park.
It could be part of an association, it doesn't have to be part of the township.
Or you take your other property, 20 square foot, 20,000 square feet, come in with a full plan showing the playground, just saying you want to subdivide, that's the land, that's it.
We will come back and we'll address the questions. I leave it to you if you'd like to hear from me and the neighbors.
It's not supposed to be a playground.
You know, and also, I don't know if a park being off-site should matter to this board either. I mean, it matters to the objectors. I don't, they're getting something for it, but the fact that the objectors are getting something, I don't think it should affect the land use planning decisions that this board should make on whether this is.
I agree, and that's why I specifically asked. I didn't want to start with the agreement. I know many people come before this board and scream, we have an agreement, let's read it into the record. I didn't ask for that. I wanted to go put the record on. The neighbors came and objected. They wanted to be heard. We're going forward with the application. I have no problem tabling it this time and come back and answering all the questions. I didn't want to do it this way.
I get that, but I don't want to have the public upset that the board was told that there would be all these, we've had this before, where all these promises are made and the promises aren't kept, and that's the planning board's fault. People then go to the mayor and council.
I understand, and objectors, they come and they say, oh, the developer carried it, see they're trying to mess with it. We're here, we'll do whatever the board wants us to do. At this point, I'll tell you, we will come back and answer all these questions. It's fine.
Do you have architectural plans for the duplexes and for the synagogue?
Synagogue plans were submitted, the duplex, I don't think so.
I believe the subdivision was prior to that ordinance.
I just don't want it to come up next time.
Does anybody in the public have any objections, even though you heard the agreement? Just raise your hand.
I have one other point as well. I just want a clarification on the block that you may or may not be getting from the township, because I think block 454 is either part of or directly adjacent to the police shooting range. This may not be the best place for a park.
It was sold.
Maybe we'll
The
double
police
check.
shooting range was sold.
So when do you want to table it?
I'd like to come back to the next hearing. I'm asking for July, I think it was July 12th, the next hearing. It's been a long night.
Years.
At least we still have some, good spirits. I would request the next available meeting. I request July 12th.
July 12th is a Wednesday, so the
Oh,
board is
all right.
aware, because Tuesday we had a conflict. So July 12th currently has nothing scheduled on it. It was, however, noticed as a planning board public hearing, so it's certainly available if the board wants to use it. Or July 25th is the next regularly scheduled Tuesday public hearing, and that currently has 4
Please sit down.
applications on
I don't know who you
it.
are.
Nothing else is being added to that agenda.
And is that major or minor stuff?
It's minor, it's a minor subdivision, that one warehouse that we carried, another minor subdivision, and a site plan exemption.
So let's put it this way. I'm not gonna ask, you only have
I
5 people, I'm not gonna ask
understand.
everybody to come out a second time. I don't think it's fair. Make another meeting July 4th, one more application, I think that's
I could put other applications on. If you-
That's up to Alan.
I understand.
Well, we'll also have what we're carrying from tonight, which is the one minor subdivision for Aaron Sperber, as well as the concept plan review.
I'm available.
Ally, what night was the correspondence item carried to?
July 25th.
Because the neighbors are here. If we could put that on the same night.
Board's making a determination on what they're carrying things to. Mr. Purcell had said the 25th. which we
I was trying to load up some more on the Wednesday.
Got it.
I just want to say that I know this has come up before where disagreements have arisen between the developer and neighbors or the builders.
Yeah, pull your mic down.
Or the builder's customers or whatever it is. And I know we've gone through this before, that these things sometimes become very complex. And I know the public keeps coming out and I understand, I sympathize to that, trust me, I really do. And we've discussed that the board has to understand exactly what the agreements are, who are signing the agreements, what are the conditions of the agreements. And these things take time. And I understand that the public keeps coming out, and it's the fourth time already you've been out, and I understand that, but it still takes time for the board to digest what's happening and to understand what the agreement is, and something that we even want to consider that we can enforce. And just because the public, the neighbors, and the developers have agreed to something doesn't mean that the board doesn't have to fully understand what's happening. So I want the public to understand that also, because like our attorney said, it comes back to us where everybody, where everybody that signed the agreement's gone, and then the next group is here saying, oh, what would you guys agree to? What part? What are you talking about? So, yeah, you have to understand these things from our perspective.
Angela, you available for July 12th? I can, most probably. Frank, can you be here July 12th? It's a Wednesday? So, we're gonna be in for
We're making an announcement that we carried, so we have to get this
So let's make July 12th. I don't feel it's fair we're pushing them off. Let's make it as fast as possible.
Do we need a motion on that, or do we
Is
make the
everybody here
announcement?
tonight? They can get a transcript and give it to the members who aren't here.
We're gonna have a problem.
Oh, yeah, there's 5 going to be able to be here on the 12th.
We all open.
Well, we'll have to put the whole application on again.
Well, they would need to all listen to the recording since they didn't hear the first half of it.
Let's just start again.
Okay.
Maybe starting again, anyway, maybe a new application, you said you're fixing the application.
No,
Motion on this? or-
Well, we've fixed the application. We're going to
Right
answer
now-
your
Right now, it's
questions.
not broken.
Through the chair, I'll make one comment, being that this is the fourth time. I know it's not a public hearing, but I like there's something to be on the record, because it's ridiculous. We come and we come and we come. They make a
Mr.
revision,
Jackson,
we
answer
come.
someone speaking from the
Hold on a
sides.
second, I'm sorry. Mr. Herzl, if you want to entertain someone from the audience, they should come forward and give their name, or it's not open to the public,
Can I open the public just for him?
Well, you could just ask him what his name is and what he wants to say and
He has
recognize it.
opposition.
But it's got to go on the,
Let's put it on the record. Okay. You have to be affirmed in.
hold on, Ms. Waller has an issue with.
Well, I mean, if you open to one, you're gonna open to another, and
No, I'm not
It's
open.
9:30, she hasn't had a break, we all need to
Yeah,
go to
I
the
mean, we
restroom.
promised that we're going to treat her like a human being that she is. And we forget that someone has to listen to every word and move her wrists the whole time, so.
We open just for him. He's not positioned for the year.
Of course, you're
Is that okay?
Jackie's at work.
Okay. So I'm not opening the public, just for him. he has a
What?
proposal.
You don't have to go on road. Sir, your name?
Baruch Blaustein, 28 Empire Lane.
What do you want to say, very briefly? This isn't public comment.
I understand, very briefly, the applicant keeps on, Baruch Blaustein,
I
B-A-R-U-C-H.
should put you under oath. Do you swear affirm testimony to give before this board the truth, the whole truth, and nothing?
I affirm. Baruch Blaustein, B-A-R-U-C-H, last name is Blaustein, B-L-A-U-S-T-E-I-N, 28 Empire Lane. I live in Prospect Park, which is the development to the north of this application, the two applications. The applicant keeps on saying that they made revisions and there's agreements, and they keep on throwing out numbers, and a lot of those numbers are not accurate. Every single time they come down here, they throw out a new number. We added 3 more parking spots. They said last time was only 18. From what I remember last time, the foreman and Mr. Klugman actually affirmed that they were already meeting the requirements, which was 28 according to the plans. So we keep on hearing different things. Every single time we come, we hear something else, and then we're going to come back July 25th, and they'll say, oh, okay, you reviewed it. And again, the same thing. So I just wanted to put on the record, the number that they're saying they're throwing out of 28 parking spots is an estimate, the way it says, and I cannot figure out for the life of me how they got that number, 3,248 square feet for the sanctuary, however you slice it. If under the UDO, they quote it, where they got it from.
Right, sir, it sounds like you're giving opposition to the application. You'll have your chance for that.
Oh, well, that's what the chairman said, that I can speak because I'm,
Well,
yeah. I don't know where they got that number. Based off of my calculations, it should be closer to 50. That's also because they're saying there's only one sanctuary. The second floor they're calling a secondary room, which was pointed out last time. Even though in the numerous other applications, they clearly mentioned that they're building 2 synagogues, 2 separate floors, and the other one is actually 3,600 square feet. So if you add them up, we're talking about over 100 parking spots. So we're,
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I got that down.
so if it's possible to mention it to the applicant that,
No, so Adam, when you come back, July 12th, it's gonna be, I wanna see full architectural. How many floors are there?
It's been submitted.
Okay, no problem. No problem.
So, just for the record, so time for July 12th, no further notice is necessary. We waive our time period.
I'll make the announcement. Members of the public, on tonight's calendar,
It's both applications.
board made a motion. Members of the public be advised, number 4 and 5 on tonight's application. The first one is SD 2208 Prospect Street Holdings. Second one is SD 2231 Prospect Street Holdings. That will be reconvened on July 12th. In other words, it will be continued on July 12th, 2017, 6 o'clock. This meeting, while there will be no further notice.
I'm sorry, I keep getting pestered about another application while you're doing other things. Mr. Jackson, for clarification, because I'm sure I'm going to get the request, for other applications for tonight, for which we've already announced they will be on July 25th, they have to stay on July 25th, I assume, otherwise we're
Yes.
changing.
Someone might have been here, they listened to the notice.
There are 2 applications, there's one application that was penciled for July 25th that hasn't had legal notice from Lyons' office, SD 2254, which could go for the 12th as well.
Is that yeah? Is that?
If they send notice.
That's
No,
Sierra?
No.
Oh.
No, that's SD 2254, which did not get plans in time for this meeting. SB 2227, did we make a legal announcement on that one? We did, for July 25th.
But I have to do a new notice anyway.
Yes, I made the announcement.
So if we made the announcement for the 25th, and he wants to renotice for the 12th, is he allowed to do that?
No, I think that's, could be viewed as a head fake to some
I'm
people.
fine with that, I
Okay,
just wanted to confirm.
that's fine. I appreciate
So
it.
there are 2 other items on tonight's agenda which we haven't carried yet, SD 2188 Aaron Sperber and SD 2274 Pine Boulevard, which is the concept, but they noticed out of courtesy to the neighbors. Can we announce both of those to July 12th, since we now have July 12th open?
Yes, they haven't been addressed yet.
It's not on your agenda, I was letting Lyons know. It's on my secret notes. Sorry. So SD 2188, number 8 for tonight, and number 9, SD 2274, we're gonna put those on the 12th, since we have a meeting on the 12th, given the chairman's consideration. Do you want to announce it?
Could you give the announcement
Yes.
from,
Members of the public be advised, application SD 2188 for Aaron Sperber and application SD 2274 for Pine Boulevard, which is concept plan only, have been tabled tonight and advanced to the July 12th Public hearing, 6 PM, this meeting hall, no further notice will be provided. Mr. Notice is yelling from the sidelines over here about the correspondence item.
You indicated that you made the announcement that it would be the 25th, if the applicant renotices for the 12th.
No, because that, someone might say they were misdirected. If they were here and they heard the announcement for the 25th, and then it turns out to be on the 12th, they might not get their certified mail or
Did the
whatever.
applicant take that at risk because it's correspondence and we believe all the objectors are here?
If it was announced, I don't think it's good.
Unless they renotice.
But even if they renotice, someone who might have been here, they go away, I don't.
We set something up.
Yeah, I think once it's announced, that's the way it should be.
Okay.
Unless you change it 2 minutes later and everyone's still here, but that was.
Well, when you announced, everybody that was interested was out of the room anyway. So then they came back in.
They can listen to the minutes.
We looked at it first on that.
We know it's the first time. Somebody said put it at the end. He said put it at the end.
I'm just saying. Sorry.
It is what it is, it's fine. 25th, guys. They're the 25th. They're all here.
Yeah.
Unless the board wants to do it right now, and be done.
Jackson, can we skip?
At risk.
Yeah.
I think
You
Webster
can
says
take out of
we're-
order, let's approve your minutes and then go to public portion. Minutes and bills, and then you can go to public if you want.
Motion to approve the minutes. All in favor? Approve the bills.
Skipping public portion will be a big mistake.
No public
Yeah,
portion?
Brian says,
should have public.
John says open to public. But,
Just want to give a compliment to the attorney who was on the ball the last application. I was amazed, you know, but at the same time, not anything negative. I just will try to stop doing that. But this problem we had in the past, that application gets approved, promises a 2-acre park plus a 10,000 shul synagogue, and then we have to come back and do this whole thing over again. And I think that's what the attorney was trying to prevent tonight, that this shouldn't happen again. And, you know, it will happen when these units are finished. We'll have to negotiate with the new neighbors coming in. So I think from the past, on this application, I understand then was the chairman, Moshe Nyman, it was his application. You had to give a little bit more leeway with that. And I assume Mr. Jackson was not on the board then, or he was not there that day, so he was not able to protect the board and the people that are coming out tonight. But I congratulate him that tonight he was amazing.
Thank you very much.
Can I just tell Mr. Klein something?
Public hearing, I'm allowed to say, I'm allowed to talk.
I just want to tell Mr. Klein that I'm happy that you're okay. Thank God you're okay. That's all.
I just wanted to add to what Mr. Klein said, is actually this development that we had this issue. This is like the 6th piece of land that they're coming for approvals for. By the first one, back in October of 2014, I was here to speak about it, and Mr. Flannery read the same exact letter in, that we're not required, and we're gonna, and we're gonna, and we're gonna. And by like the 3rd or 4th application, Mr. Schmuckler twisted their arm to actually put it in, and we're still holding over here, twisting their arm.
I'm just going to object. The testimony is continuing on the
It's
application.
public.
We've tabled he's public on the same application. So it's time for that application to be heard.
You're right, the board should not consider that comment in connection with that specific application.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay.